Welcome, everyone. This is your friend, the DN What If, here with another exciting fanfiction. Today, we're diving into the story of What If Deku Found Healing in the Dollhouse? If you enjoy this video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more fanfiction content just like this. Now, let's get started with the fanfic. Chapter 1. Escaping that shithole of a house. Please stop Kaken Dash, I said, fighting blood-stained tears threatening to drop from my eyes. Go clean yourself up, and if you tell anyone, you already know what's going to happen, said Bakugo, chuckling. Oi extras, let's leave, he said, picking up his bag and signaling to his friends, and left laughing. I got up immediately and picked up my thrashed yellow bag and my magazines. I kneeled down to the ground and picked up my notebook, fighting the urge to scream. I gathered my items and put them into my bag and zipped the bag up. I looked at myself in the mirror opposite me and saw blood on my eyes. I turned on the tap and washed my face multiple times. I then opened my bag and grabbed a gauze roll and started rolling the gauze on my face. I put the rest of the roll back into my bag and secured the loose gauze with a metal pin. I picked up my phone and noticed there were 2 new messages from my mother. The first message read, Oi slot, where the F are you? It's been more than an hour. I sighed. At school, I was being abused by Kaken, I typed. Hesitantly, I sent the message with tears dripping down my face. I sighed heavily and packed my stuff up and left through the school gate. I passed Kaken's house and I told myself repeatedly that he meant nothing to me. I knocked on the front door of my house and my mother was there. She was dressed in a black tank top and she pulled me inside. What the F happened to you, you slot? She said, examining my gauze. It's nothing. I fell down the stairs, I said, looking down. I wouldn't have give a F if you had died as well. You already know the drill. Straight to the basement. I guess she didn't read my message. I was shaking when I reached the basement. Oh, you were being abused at school? Guess I won't abuse you. Get in your room and stay there, I have someone coming over, she said, laughing. The abuse had continued till Meteora was pushed to the limits, and when that happened Meteora ran away from home, and he knew where he was going. Kaken's house, even though Kaken hated him with all his guts. It was a rainy day as Meteora vaulted out of his bedroom window and landed into a pile of mottled leaves. He dusted himself off and ran out onto the driveway, trying his best to avoid the motion sensor light. As he was running, the light turned on and he sped up. He got into a black car and started the engine. Finally, I escaped this shithole, he thought, crying. He turned up the music which was playing through his headphones. He placed the phone down and it turned off. The best moment is yet to come, he sang. It was his favorite song by BTS and it calmed him down. He reached Bakugo's house in less than a minute and pulled into the driveway. He knocked on the door. The door opened and Auntie Mitsuki was standing there horrified. Aizuku? What are you doing at this time of night? She asked. The situation was getting worse, I just want my life back, said Deku with tears dripping down his face. Mitsuki lifted his face up and wiped his eyes. Why do you have gauze on your face, Izuku? She said. Kaken, said Deku, looking down at his black hoodie. It's okay. Come in and have dinner and then take a rest, she said. I entered the dining room where Kaken was already sitting. His face dropped as soon as he saw me in gauzes and bandages. What the hell happened to you? I thought you went home and got yourself treated. My mother is really abusive, that's what happened, for FS sake. Language, yelled a voice from the kitchen. I sat down, putting my bag on the side. Auntie, could I go clean up in the bathroom? I asked, looking down. Of course. I went down the corridor and into the bathroom. I turned on the light and turned the tap. I removed my gauze and started washing the scar. I was finishing up when I heard footsteps and was pulled into a hug from someone unknown. Who is it? I said. Hush, Deku, it's me. Did I really give you a big scar? He said. Tears started dripping down my face as I sobbed in Kaken's warm arms. Let it all out, he said. 10 minutes passed of Deku screaming. It's just that. He paused. My mother's been abusing me since my childhood, and with you playing your game as well, it's been a hassle for me, I said, wiping my tears. Izuku, you should have told me, and listen, I never wanted to harm you, but my friends would have thought I'd gone soft for someone quirkless, he said, pulling me into his arms. He then lifted me to his face and pulled me into a kiss. I started blushing with embarrassment. Why'd you do that? I thought you hated me, I said, looking down. I was forced to. I didn't want to hurt you in the first place. Comment. Zero comment. Chapter 2. The Case File. You should talk to the police. I'm certain child abuse is illegal, said Bakugo, staring at Deku, who was wiping his tears. You're bleeding again, Aizu, said Bakugo, wiping thick red liquid from my face. I gently pushed Kaken away and went to the tap to clear up the thick blood which had dripped down my face in the PRD. Kaken left and I turned on the tap and washed my face again for 10 minutes when Kaken reached the bathroom with a med kit and turned me around. Relax. It's going to sting, but it'll clean the wound of all dirt and grime stuck there. I blushed and sat on the edge of the bathtub, and he clicked open the med kit and grabbed a small bottle, a gauze roll, a bandage, a pin, and a small towel. He opened the bottle and the clear liquid spilled onto the towel. He moved towards me and kissed my forehead. He then rubbed the towel onto my wound, and in less than a second it was cleansed. He grabbed the gauze and the bandage and layered into 2 layers and wrapped it around my head, making sure my curly green hair was clear of the layer. He clipped the pin onto my bandage and flattened the bandages, neatly pressing it. All done, he said, pulling me into a soft kiss. I'll never let my friends hurt you again. I promise, and I won't break this promise ever again, Aizu Redheart, he said. Thank you, I said, smiling. Dinner's ready for you too, yelled Aunt Mitsuki. I held Kaken's hand and he squeezed tightly. I winced. He let go and whispered, Are you okay, Izuku? I'm fine, just really hungry, I said, brushing my green curls out of my eyes. We went into the dining room and grabbed our bowls. Oh, that was delicious, Aunt Mitsuki, I burped. We all laughed and I bid goodnight to Aunt Mitsuki and left the dining room with Kaken. We were talking as we walked down the hallway and he started blushing. We don't have any available room for you to sleep in, said Kaken. I don't mind sleeping with you, I said, looking into his eyes. He smiled. I got into his bed and laid next to Kaken. There was silence and only crickets chirping was to be heard. Today was so shitty. It was worse than other days of abuse, I said, crying into Kaken's chest. Well, you know you've got me and you can always speak to me if you need Izuku, said Kaken. Kaken, what made you hate me so much? I said. Let's not talk about that. Kaken. Creator's thoughts. Tora_demand_Tora_demand_. Why do all my stories make me cry at the end of an emotional chapter? Anyways, I'm sorry you start raging at me, but this will not be a smut story, and if you don't like reading or aren't multifaceted for subtle and sweet stories, you can leave the story now instead of spamming abuse comments towards me. But anyways, stay hydrated, my angels, and eat your food. Angelic understood. Comment. 3 comment. Chapter 3. My birthday. I woke up the next day looking out of the sunlit window. A ray hit me in the eye and I blinked. I turned on my phone and noticed it was Friday and the date read 15th of July. I smiled as tears formed in my eyes. It's my birthday, I said to myself. There was a grunt from next to me and a red eye opened to stare at me. Good morning, Kaken, I said, smiling. He turned on his phone and noticed the date like I did. Oi nerd, happy birthday, he said. Kaken, we're gonna be late, your get up. We got out of bed and fixed the bedsheets, then changed. After we had changed, I went downstairs holding Kaken's hand. We reached the dining room and sat down in the cold sunray-filtered mist. Breakfast was on the table and there was a mix of katsudon, ramen, and udon laid out. I grabbed a bowl of rice, topping it with pork and my favorite sauce. I grinned as I spooned rice into my mouth. As I'm eating, I make eye contact with Kaken and it hits me inside. His eyes are so dazzling with that fiery red hue, I thought. Oi Izuku, what are you staring at? He grinned. Oh, nothing. I smiled. Drop the bowl and follow me, he said, dropping his own bowl. I followed him upstairs and he pulled me into his room and slammed the door shut, then leaning onto me, he kissed me till I was breathless. Happy birthday again, nerd. I blushed and stared at him. Oi, we're gonna be late, he said, grunting. We left the house bidding goodbye to Aunt Mitsuki, smiling. Creator's thoughts. Tora underscore demand underscore Tora underscore demand underscore. Bakugo's manliness just hit him like PBRY. What the hell? I didn't think my character's development could be this good. Comment 3 comment. Chapter 4, The School Fight, Part 1. We were walking down the sakura tree-lined pavement to school at a rapid pace, holding each other's hands tightly. We had only entered the school drive when Bakugo's friends drew a circle around us. "Geez, Katsuki. Who knew you had a soft spot for Deku?" they taunted, laughing. Bakugo scowled fiercely and his ruby-red eyes induced to slits. I withdrew from Bakugo's side, quickly looking down and stepping forward. "Izuku, what the f are you doing?" he whispered into my ear. "Go on, Kaken, I can deal with them myself," I said. "Izuku, you wouldn't deal well under heavy pressure," he said all of a sudden. "I did from childhood," I said as soon as he stopped. "I'm sorry. Please forgive me," he said, leaving my side. I advanced onto them, but one of the boys ran behind me, grabbing me tightly, and the other kicked me in the shins. "Let him have it, boys," the other said, leaving the scene. My screams filled the air as I was kicked, punched, and slapped across the face harshly. I wiped away my tears as they left me. I was on the floor, huddling my stomach to reduce the severe pain. I got up and fell, when out of nowhere Kaken pulled me up and into his arms, carrying me bridal style to the bathroom. "Let's get you cleaned up, Aizu," he said as we entered the bathroom. He dropped me carefully on one of the benches and opened my bag, pulling out some gauze, antiseptics, and more items needed. "I'm gonna need you to take off your shirt," he said softly. I unbuttoned my coat and shirt, then put them aside. He looked at my chest and noticed a large bruise across it. He looked at me in the eyes as I looked back at him in the eyes as well, and I saw a spark of fire ignite in them. He grabbed the gauze and wrapped it around my chest and then to my legs where it was bleeding the most, and my arms. He packed up the rest for me and took off to class. I pulled on my shirt and coat and ran to class. I made it in time as the bell rang for first PRD, and the boys who had hurt me earlier were eyeing me at the bandages in my arms. Comment 0 comment. Chapter 5, The School Fight, Part 2. The bell rang for recess and I headed outside into the bitter coldness of the oval and recessiard. I walked to an empty bench, shivering, and looked at the dead sakura trees lining the oval. I opened my bento box and saw a roast of tuna, some onigiri, rice ball, and a slice of lime tart. I smiled as this was the best meal at school I had in days, or maybe years. I picked up the lime tart and took a bite, then demolishing it while savoring it. I took a piece of seasoned onigiri and took a huge bite and finishing it off. The bell rang after I packed up my stuff, and then I hear commotion on the way back. There were humongous crowds of people lining against the school building, and I saw a tall person with spiky blonde hair and red eyes fighting someone who I knew. Kaken. I watched the fight from the beginning to the end, and the person fighting him was left with 2 completely bruised limbs, 1 puffy eye, 5 scars, and soot in the hair. The commotion broke as the teachers swarmed in to take the student hurt away, while the others yelling at Kaken to go to the principal's office. I was leaving when someone grabbed hold of my arm, tugging at it, then pulling me into the bathroom and into the last cubicle, shutting the door. He pinned my hands behind my back and kissed me passionately, and I melted into the kiss. He made his way to my neck and bit it harshly, forcing me to let out a whine. He moved away from my neck into one of my most sensitive spots, the ears. He bit the lobe of my left ear, gently causing me to loudly. He chuckled, then kissed me again passionately, and I kissed back. Both of our tongues were fighting for Dem's and Kaken's one over mine. He broke the kiss and a string of saliva formed. I bit my lip and looked up at him, blushing. "K Kaken, we have class," I said. He was working at my coat and by now shirt, tossing them over one by one, lifting me up against the wall. "Skip," he said, grinning at having me in this state. Comment 0 comment. Chapter 6, The Winter Holidays. I walked out of the bathrooms limping and blushing as Kaken followed behind. I couldn't believe we had it. I walked down the paved lines of the road, hobbling every few steps, and I reached Kaken's house and entered, taking off my shoes. I limped up the stairs and into mine in his room and changed after a shower, and I lay down on the bed, blushing and relapsing what we did, instead of doing maths. He came in and chuckled at the sight of me blushing and went into the shower with his clothes, then he came out fully changed. I opened his closet while he lay down and I grabbed one of his hoodies and pulled it over my shirt, and looking down I realized how big and oversized they were. The hood covered my short and knees, making me blush. Kaken lifted his head up and noticed me in his hood and chuckled, pulling me into his arms on the bed. We lay there in silence, and I think I fell asleep for 5 hours after. I only realized how precious Kaken was when he slept. He was at peace and purring softly. I got up and went to the bathroom and then to the living room where some coffee and biscuits were on the table with a card labeled, "Me and Bakugo's dad are out of town for a month. Enjoy yourselves at home for the holidays. Mitsuki." I opened the fridge and a bunch of KFC buckets were there and a few other ingredients for cooking. I grabbed out a bucket of KFC and warmed it up in a pan and started eating some of the chicken. So tasty. I exhaled while chewing. I heard noises down the hallway and I was ambushed by someone with blonde hair who was still sleepy. I let him nuzzle on my shoulder while cooking some more chicken. "You hungry?" I said. "I want to eat you up," he said. "Too bad, I'm actually hungry," as I plated some chicken and rice and headed into the living room. I finished the chicken and turned on the TV and watched some TV for a bit while Kaken was resting his head in my lap. I yawned while playing with his hair. I leant over and kissed forehead and plugged in my earphones and phone and clicked play on Set Fire to the Rain X Another Love and started singing out loud. And if somebody hurts you I wanna fight, by my hands have been broken one too many time, so I'll use my voice and be so dim and rude, I sang through tears. Looking down at my hand I see a small semicolon tattoo and pull my sleeve over it. I look at the TV. I feel someone pull out of my lap and he lifts me up slightly and puts me in his lap. "K Kaken," I said as he chuckled. My sleeve lifted by accident and Kaken looked over as I quickly pulled it over. He reclined and then hugged me tightly. I look out the window and sit near the coffee table listening to Heal. Zero comment. Chapter 7. The Talk. TW/to warn. Talks of suicide and S/H attempts. We both got up and left the living room, and as I turned left into Kaken's room, Kaken said, "We need to talk, Izuku." I looking into his eyes and I came across a panic attack. What I yelled. "Shush, it's important, about the tattoo on your wrist," he said, looking in my eyes and grabbing my wrists. "Please, I can't tell you about this, Kaken," I said as tears formed into my eyes and I sobbed loudly. He pulled me into his arms and I continued sobbing loudly. "Izuku, it's alright to talk to me," he said softly. I took a deep breath and began. "Well, it started back then when you hated me a lot. I still remember the day you told me to take a jump off the rooftop and die. I didn't try to that, and instead I tried hanging myself, and obviously my mother didn't care at all." I took in another shallow breath. I looked into his face and he was shocked. Tears formed into my eyes, and I continued once again. "I wasn't able because I wasn't ready to leave the world behind," I said. Then I began scarring my arms, legs, and abdomen repeatedly till I once became bloodless and I was admitted straight to the hospital. After that, I didn't bother trying because they said they'd send me straight to a mental hospital. I said, breaking down completely. He pulled me into his arms and I let out my emotions. "It's okay, Izuku," he said. "Mistakes get made, all right?" I hugged him tightly and silently thanked God to have someone so kind and caring to take care of me. "I've felt that way before, Izuku. Instead of what you felt, I felt like I was worthless with my quirk," he said, squeezing my side assuringly. I smiled and we both laughed as I wiped up my tears. We headed back into the living room chatting away, and I told him that the semicolon tattoo was a symbol for struggles of S/H and suicide attempts. I decided to show him the marks I received from the attempt of hanging and my scars from the attempt of making myself bloodless. He told me never to do this again. And I knew I would never ever do it again. Creator's thoughts. Tora_demand_Tora_demand_. Sobbing, dying, and throwing up on the floor because of this chapter. This is the casual thing that happens when I feel so bad after writing emotional chapters. Zero comment. Chapter 8. The Date. It was another cold, blustery day in the holidays, and I was listening to some music as Kaken entered the room dressed formal. I paused my music, removing my earphones, and then he said while blushing red, "Get up, And get ready. We're going on a date. I blushed and left to our room to change and came out in a green tuxedo and slipped on my leather shoes before heading out to ask Kakin how I looked. He was bewildered when he saw me in a tuxedo, and then instead of saying yes, he got up and kissed me. He broke apart and I looked into his eyes. Stunning, charming, handsome. If there was a bigger word for it, I'd say it is Zuku, he said, looking back into mine. After a few moments, we left to the squirrel restaurant where they served normal Japanese cuisine, and they had live squirrels to pat after eating. Creator's thoughts. Tora_demand_Tora_demand_. Where the hell did I get the idea for a squirrel restaurant? I'm sobbing. Sorry for the short chapter, but I was in school writing this. See y'all soon, and I might think of updating this later for an extended chapter. Smiley face. By comment. Zero comment. Chapter 9. The Date, Part 2. We were leaving until Kakin got onto his knee and held out a ring, and I teared up. Will you be my boyfriend? He asked. I thought we already were, and I grabbed him up and kissed him as applause erupted around us. We walked back home. And before I could get into the house, he had me pinned against wall and had already started undoing my tuxedo's blazer. I gave in once again to his lust and groaned. He successfully undid my blazer, and then he moved onto my neck and started biting my neck. He lifted me up from the ground and carried me to his room. For an odd reason he had rope, and before I noticed I knew it. You'd better not squirm, Izuku, he said, leaning over the bed frame after unbuttoning my shirt. He grabbed hold of my wrists and tied them and then wrapped the rope around his bed frame before he started undoing my trousers. W8 Kakin dash. I said, startled. He started massaging my neck and then bit it, tearing at my nerves as he pulled off my trousers. He kissed me while he undid his shirt and blazer, and then his trousers. I whimpered. I'll be gentle, alright, just go with the flow, he said. He started massaging my D, and then slid 2 fingers into my hole, loosening it up. I held back a longing and then he started pumping my. Drool slipped out of my mouth and down to my chest as I looked down. He had already started skiing onto the tip of my D-dash. I squirmed at first but got used to him skiing on it. I was about to hit my Selim X when he pulled out and then slid his D unwarningly into my hole, tearing at my P. He untied my hands and I gripped onto him tightly. He continued moving into me and our movements became one. Heidi was already twitching and I was just waiting for the right moment. I continued gripping onto him, and soon enough I had Selim X'd onto his chest, and he as well had Selim X'd to mine, but he wasn't done yet. He told me to get onto all fours and told me to SEK his D-dash. I did, and his M's drove me on further to the point when he pushed me away and caught his breath. Want to continue? I said. You slut, you're actually saying this? He said, breathing, and he pulled me back up and threw me onto the bed, readying my hands and putting them behind my back. I chuckled. Let's see who's chuckling when I bite their POTT again. My face turned red and he started immediately. Creator's thoughts. Tora_demand_Tora_demand_. Sorry for no warning, my children. I hope you are alright. Comment. 1 comment. Chapter 10. The Date, Part 3. We both finished after clunksing onto each other again, Skull loudly crying face the amount of times Izuku's but broke. And then we cleaned up the room and threw away the sheets and replaced them, and after that we took another shower together and fell asleep listening to Night Drive by Henry. We woke up to clattering from downstairs, and together we both walked down the stairs and came across Aunt Mitsuki. I greeted her and she hugged me and Kakin. We both headed into the living room and was laid there for a bit and fell asleep again. We woke up after 5 hours and headed into the kitchen for dinner. Aunt Mitsuki had already laid the dinner table with food and we already started eating. I grabbed some bacon, some egg and some rice, and then I cracked open the egg onto the rice and placed the bacon on top and started eating. Kakin grabbed some cheesy ramen and started eating. After finishing our dinner, we said goodnight to Aunt Mitsuki and then headed upstairs to sleep as school was tomorrow. Comment. 0 comment. Chapter 11. Coming Out, Part 1. The next morning we woke up at 6 a.m. and got ready for school. By 7 a.m. we were done changing and showering, and then we headed downstairs for breakfast. I had a fute French toast and Kakin had 2 waffles with fruit and syrup. We then had a glass of orange juice each and headed out. Once again we held our hands down the sakura-lined pathway and there were crowds of people, mainly boys lining up there. We could hear laughter all the way through the pathway and it was feeling like last year all over again. I started tearing up and then Kaken pulled me to his side and I rested my head on his shoulder. He yelled at the boys and they ran away laughing ever more. The homophobia had began. We made it into the classroom as the bell rang and I sat down next to Kaken. We were waiting for the teacher and then one of the boys from the class started picking on me. Kaken got up and yelled at him and the whole class laughed. My mind was racing with all the shit that had happened last year and I couldn't help but tear up again. The teacher entered the room and the laughter stopped almost immediately. She started addressing the class and then she said, "Listen up now. If there are people who are gay in this class, it does not mean that you laugh at them. They are a part of society as well, and they have their own role in the world." I looked up, my eyes red and I wiped away my tears. Midiyora and Katsuki here, who is gay or homosexual I should say, do not deserve to be bullied of a sexuality change. This starts our new topic LGBTQ and how they came to be in modern-day society. She said. I pulled out my book and started writing as Kaken kissed my cheek. Zero comment. Chapter 12, Coming Out, Part 2. We finished the lesson and headed out for recess and then out of the blue a group of girls came and sat down with me. Kaken also came to sit down with the girls and then the girls said that they were glad to be our friends. We accepted and a bunch of other girls joined up on the table. The only other tables were crowded with boys. I slipped my hand down and Kaken felt it and held it tightly. We started cracking jokes and we continued eating and sharing stories of our past and how we got here together and then we heard the bell ring and went into the next class. Before we entered the next class Kaken looked left and right and then kissed me and we headed into the room. The boys at the back were said that LGBTQ studies was our new topic and I couldn't help but laugh loudly. I sat down next to Kaken and then we started the lesson and learned some other topics despite LGBTQ which the boys were glad of. Creator's thoughts. Tora_demand_Tora_demand_. I'ma leave this story here at this chapter for now. I'll consider updating in a few weeks or so. Thanks for reading so far and continuing your journey here. For now I'll stay off for a bit since I'm really stressed out writing this. Thank you so much for your support though. Make sure to eat and drink. See you soon. Zero comment. Chapter 13, Coming Out, Part 3. We heard the bell ring for the last time that day and left the classroom. We walked downstairs until someone pushed me down the stairs laughing and ran off. Kaken helped me get up off my knees and I held his hand as we walked to the bus stand. The boys who were there in the morning started throwing things at my head and the group of girls we were friends with leant over and sheltered it. I grabbed hold of Kaken's hand and we got onto the bus and sat down at the back when a few other boys came to the back and sat down next to me. I shifted a bit closer to Kaken since I was uncomfortable, and then one of the boys started caressing my thigh. The other two boys laughed softly, and I moved down further. Kaken was getting suspicious and he got up and noticed that one of the boys' hands were on my thigh. He got up and punched him in the face as I sobbed. He told me to swap seats with him and look out the window. I leant on his shoulder and fell asleep on the journey home. Zero comment. Chapter 14, Coming Out, Part 4. Do remember this is all on the bus. The homophobic boy/SPOV. A fist came in contact with my face and my nose started bleeding. Dude, what the F dash? I yelled. Mess with him again, whether it be sexually or homophobically, I will murder you. Bakugo said. I backed away and stemmed the flow of blood which was steady dripping down my face and my lips. Fgot, you and he is. I said under my breath. The F, did you say? Yelled Bakugo. He grabbed my ear harshly and pulled it, then he punched me in the face repeatedly until the boys on my side noticed and started fighting him. Bakugo's POV. That effing shithead called us Fgots? Oh, he's sitting dead in my hands now, whether it be now or at night he will die. I raised my fist again and punched his eye. I started on the other boys who were trying to fight me and this time small explosions erupted in my hand and the boys backed away in fear this time. I threw an explosion at the boys and then after the soot did its trick they were temporarily blinded. End of POV. I noticed out stop and I pressed one of the buttons and I woke Izuku up and we both got off the bus. We walked home together with our arms around each other's waist. I opened the front door and entered the house when Kaken leant over and kissed me. If they hurt you under any circumstances, tell me, okay? I'll deal with those shitheads myself, he said after we broke apart. I nodded my head and we went upstairs into our room. I got into the shower with him and we both started showering and scrubbing ourselves. We finished showering and changed into some freshly laundered PJs and laid onto the bed. I pulled out my laptop and we started watching a movie thing. Creator's thoughts. Tora_demand_Tora_demand_. About the shower thing, Kurt. I dunno, but I heard this is a couple thing. Comment. Zero comment. Chapter 15. The Trip to Kyoto, Part 1. There's been so much buzz at school about the upcoming Kyoto trip. I got permission from Kaken's mum that I could go to Kyoto for 2 weeks. The trip to Kyoto is 5 hours and a half. We were finishing up packing our duffel bags and backpacks with snacks, clothes, and electronics. The trip was tomorrow and I was ridiculously excited to go on that trip. The next day arrived and I got up and changed into some comfortable clothes and grabbed my duffel bag and backpack and headed downstairs for breakfast. Kaken was following close behind me. We reached the table and it was already laid without our breakfast and I started eating my breakfast and I started eating and then we bidded goodbye to Auntie Mitsuki and headed out to school. We ascended up the driveway of the schoolyard and I held Kaken's hand and we proceeded to roll call. After roll call we moved outside in the yard and in groups of 15 people each we ascended to the coaching bus and proceeded to some of the back seats. I got one of the window seats and pulled down the curtains and I plugged in my laptop on one of the charging ports and turned on my mobile hotspot and opened Netflix and plugged in an earphone and shared one with Kaken. Then we started watching a movie. We started watching a movie when Kaken pulled at my t-shirt and started kissing me. We were glued to each other's lips and then Kaken placed his hands up my shirt and started massaging my nipples. I groaned under my breath and he essayed on my neck. "K Kaken, we're on a bus, not right now," I said into his ears. He pulled away and started watching the movie again. Creator's thoughts. Tora_demand_Tora_demand_. Spicy muchasy. Where did I get this from? It came into my brain out of nowhere, but it means very spicy. Comment. One comment. Chapter 16. The Trip to Kyoto, Part 2. After finishing the movie I switched my laptop off and reclined my seat, pulling out a blanket and sleeping mask before falling asleep. Kaken decided to fall asleep, but he was afraid of the nightmares he had been receiving since he had bitten me. I woke up as the bus rolled into the driveway of our hotel and the rest got off and we followed them into the hotel receiving our keys. You were supposed to be in pairs and I chose Kaken for my roommate, and then we opened our room and I gasped. It was huge. There was a TV, and soot and 2 queen-size beds. I dropped my bag at the closets and I checked the area out. I finished checking the area out and unpacked my electronics and clothes, placing them in the closet. I was unpacking my bag when Kaken came up behind me and hugged me, before slipping his hands into my shirt and I inhaled sharply. He started skiing on my neck as I emmed. He pushed me into the corner of the room and grabbed hold of my arms, until the door opened and he backed away with a grunt. The teachers were checking if we were settling in all right and then they left. I unpacked my duffel bag and started filling the closet with my clothes. I then went into the shower with a pair of shorts and a t-shirt. I took a shower, then I exited the shower with a towel wrapping my neck. I heard a knock on the door and I answered it, and it was some of my friends. I allowed them into the room and their jaws dropped at the fact we had the best room. I laughed at the shock from their faces and then we all headed out for lunch. Zero comment. Chapter 17. The Trip to Kyoto, Part 3. I walked down the staircase with Kaken and we reached the restaurant and we found a table seating 5 free from the rest in a cubicle. I sat down next to Kaken and we ordered some entrees and the main course. I ordered spaghetti and Kaken ordered sushi. I started eating my spaghetti and then Kaken, who was sitting next to me, turned my head and picked up a strand of spaghetti and placed one end in my mouth and the other his and started eating it. I was left helpless and could do nothing but eat the spaghetti. We were inches from our lips before Kaken finished his ended and started French kissing me. I let out small ms in between each kiss and when he heard my it turned him on ever more. We broke apart with the girls looking up at us and giving us thumbs up while stemming their nosebleeds. I got up and left to the bathroom in embarrassment, only to come across a group of homophobic boys surrounding me. I struggled to get up as I was beat up harshly, and I was left there to lie on the cold tiled floor until I heard the door open and someone with blonde hair rushed into the bathroom and yelled for the teachers. He picked me up and carried me out of the bathroom as gasps erupted all around us. As the gasps erupted, I dozed off into a deep sleep, not knowing what, or the things I remembered would be lost off in my memories. Creator's thoughts. Tora_demand_Tora_demand_. I actually hate my own characters now. The homophobic boys, how the hell could they harm Broccoli Boy? I can't. Why did I write this? Comment. Zero comment. Chapter 18. The Trip to Kyoto, Part 4. I woke up in a cold sweat, bandaged completely. I groaned as I turned onto my side and Kaken was there laying asleep bandaged as well. Tears formed in my eyes and I got up with my vision in a blur. I cried the whole way down to the restaurant, and when I reached the entrance I wiped away my tears and headed inside. I was met with gasps from every table, and then I stumbled to my table, and to my surprise I was hugged by all of my friends there. I got back to my room hiccuping in tears at 9 that night, to be pulled into a hug by Kaken. He was awake and he noticed I was in tears. I couldn't calm down at all until he started planting kisses all over my neck and then a deep kiss on my lips. "Please don't cry, Izuku, it's not your fault, my love," he said as he hugged me. I needed to shower, so I took off my shirt and peeled off my bandages, revealing my recent scars. I grabbed my pajamas and walked into the shower, turned on the shower, and with no words I slipped under the comforting warm water. I died a little inside. Flashbacks of my past were coming into my mind and a voice was erupting in my mind. It was saying, "No one's ever gonna love you, you suicidal f-." My head was filling up with all these voices, and before I could say anything all my emotions drained out and I screamed, cried and yelled as I slid onto the floor of the shower. The door burst open and Kaken had already entered the shower. He had heard me. He turned off the water and wrapped a towel around my body, carrying me out east, and then locking the door and shutting the curtains in case anyone was approaching us because of my scream. He pulled my clothes onto me as tears swam across my cheeks. My voice was hoarse from the screaming and I tried to speak but was unable to. Kaken noticed I was trying to speak and he said, "You're not in a good mental state to speak, Izuku, you're mentally unwell right now." He laid me down and turned off the lights off our room. "I'm going to tell the girls what had happened, all right," he said. "Please don't, they'll think I'm shit at controlling my emotions," I said with my still hoarse voice. He sighed. "You're the strongest person I know, Izuku. You kept your head up when I bullied you and you never gave up," he said, walking back to me before he hugged me tightly. I sat there silent and he left to the girls' room. He came back at 1 a.m. that night when I was still awake. He quickly showered and changed into some of his clothes before getting into bed with me and cuddling me tightly. The voices in my head were singing, "Show and tell, you're on display for all these fuckers to see." It took me 2 full hours to shut those voices out before I could fall asleep. Zero comment. Chapter 19. The Trip to Kyoto, Part 5. I woke up with eye bags under my eyes. I walked out onto our balcony attached to the side of our room before being attacked by cuddles from Kaken. I turned around and he noticed my eye bags and cuddled me tighter. I turned around and then, leaning against the railing, Kaken had started kissing me, and then he wrapped my legs around his waist and walked inside the room, shutting the door and pulling the curtains shut before pulling off my clothes and his clothes. Hickeys were left all across my neck bone and my legs when I woke up naked later that day to hear knocking. I quickly changed into my joggers and t-shirt before answering the door. One of the boys who had bullied me was standing there. "What the hell do you want?" I said. "I apologize for bullying you, Meteora, from the very beginning. I had seen the pain in your eyes last night down at the restaurant," he said. "I want to be friends with you." I agreed with him and then I shut the door, to only see Kaken wide awake lying in bed smirking. His amber eyes clashed with mine and he scanned my body before getting up and hugging me from the back, and then I told him we have lunch and a tour around Kyoto. He turned me around and kissed me before going to the shower to shower and changed. I grabbed my phone and checked my Instagram and Snapchat to see plenty of messages. I logged onto Instagram and I was met with a post from Kaken. It was last night's incident. I blushed, and as I logged off, I noticed one new message from Mum. I looked at it and it read, "Where the F are you slot? You're supposed to be answering the door." I replied back I had run away from home and I was on the trip to Kyoto at school. I laughed after sending that. I heard the door open and switched off my phone before picking up and grabbing my earphones. The rest of the grade was lined up and we got to the front and onto the bus to the main city. We missed breakfast, so I was ridiculously hungry. An hour later we reached and split up in pairs and walked down the alleyway as I held Kaken's hand. We bumped into someone with heavily tattooed arms and the same color hair and eyes like mine, and I gasped. Mum was here in Kyoto. Kaken saw my face and then he looked at my mom before grabbing hold of my hand and pulled me before we took off to a restaurant. We reached a restaurant breathing and Kaken was astonished. He was scared to see my mum. I was terrified ever more because of that encounter. We ordered some drinks and a bowl of katsudon and ramen. We finished eating and took off down that alleyway before my hair was yanked backwards and my mouth was taped. Kaken had noticed I was missing and ran down the alleyway with explosions firing behind him. He took to the corner when he noticed me, and then with one powerful explosion narrowly missing me, he hit my mum and she was blown backwards. He released me from the rope and the tape before he went down and tied my mum up before I called the cops. The cops reached an hour later and they arrested her. My terror was gone. I would never go back to that abusive household. The cops thanked Kaken and me for being brave in order to get my mum arrested. They were talking and then the voice came back. "What the F are you doing? You won't be able to see your biological mother again if she gets arrested. You really don't care about her, do you? I shut the voice out and ran to Kaken before we took off and left. We reached the bus and then we got on with the rest of the grade and I sat down sighing. My mum was finally arrested. I could finally live a life without the terror of her on my back. My mum came onto the news that night. She was the most wanted abuse criminal in Japan and she was sentenced to life in prison, with witnesses and personal family heavily against her. Her son Izuku Midiura was found about to get kidnapped in Kyoto, until his boyfriend had caught her. His boyfriend was the well-known son Katsuki Bakugo, whose parents were Mitsuki and Masaki Bakugo. It's a surprise that Bakugo had managed to capture the most wanted Japanese criminal, empty-handed with only rope and his quirk, explosions. Her son is quirkless, and was abused since the day he was born. He had hated his life and he was bullied by Bakugo until 9th grade before he stopped and fell in love with Midiura. I switched off my mobile and fell asleep knowing I was finally safe from my mum and dad. Zero comment. Chapter 20. The Trip to Kyoto, Part 6. I woke up the next day and turned on the TV. I was famous. I watched the news for a bit. We were leaving this afternoon, so I got up and packed my stuff up, before waking Kaken up. This trip has been a hell of a roller coaster, not to mention, nearly getting kidnapped by my mum. I grabbed my duffel bag and hoisted it around my waist before waking up Kaken. He groaned and then got up and started packing his bags and suitcase. I walked downstairs to the restaurant with him and we left for breakfast, and then after a few hours we were called down to get on the bus home. As the bus starts I look out and wave bye to Kyoto, and then we're in a long tunnel and on the way home. We roll up into the school's driveway and the bus stops as we get off the bus. I move into the schoolyard and to the oval, where I meet up with the girls and we sit down cracking jokes until the bell rings. The bell rings for the final time this year, and before you know it we're graduating. Creators' thoughts. Tora_demand_Tora_demand_. Threets. Less than 3. Thank you guys so much for your support recently. It helps me a lot. I wanted to cover a few illnesses and bullying, during this. I covered Izuku's mental illnesses, such as depression and anxiety. I hope you enjoyed till this far, cause I'm going to continue through to their UA years and married life. Thank you guys so much again for the support. Make sure you eat, drink water, stay happy, and be yourself. I'm also sorry for such a short chapter. I try my best not to leave you guys on short chapters, but I reckon this was supposed to be a short chapter. Crying face. Threets. Less than 3. I love all of you. Comment. Zero comment. Chapter 21. Into UA. That night we had our graduation ceremony from middle school and into high school. I had applied for UA just like Kaken and was hoping they would accept me though I'm quirkless. I was getting ready in my room for the ceremony. Kaken was checking his phone and then he yelled, "Yes." I was confused. I asked him what happened and he got into UA. I checked my phone and I got an email from UA and I saw the reply, before tears formed in my eyes. I got in as well. I said, my voice cracking as I looked up. Kaken smiled. I knew they were gonna let us in. They wouldn't leave us apart. He got up and hugged me tightly, before we went downstairs and saw the bus outside waiting for us. We got on for the best night of our life in Tokyo, the center of Japan. We were 18 by the time. We reached the function center and my jaw dropped. I held Kaken's hand, and we entered into the dance floor, where music was blaring, fog spewing, and streamers flying. I disappeared into the center of the dance floor where there was a champagne fountain and I grabbed a champagne glass and filled it up. Kaken was at the alcohol bar nearby the fountain with a beer in his hands. He was so calm and relaxed just standing there. He noticed me staring at me before pulling me out of the main room and to one of the cubicle seats. The cubicle seats were hidden well amongst the other and before I knew it, he was pressed against me and kissing me, not letting me breathe in between. I managed to push him away then I said, "Are you already drunk now? You're only down one drink and drunk." I said before I felt him grab my hands and pin them behind my head, and he started kissing me. He unbuttoned my shirt slightly and then he pulled down my collar slightly, before starting to seck on my neck. I blushed slightly but flashbacks came back from our trip in Kyoto, making me tear up and then I started hyperventilating and sweating. Kaken stopped almost immediately when he felt my chest heave in and out. "Breathe properly, goddamn nerd. Take deep breaths in and out for 5 minutes. Please. I'll stop if you want me to," he said. I scrunched up my hands into fists to steady myself. The next few minutes were an emotional roller coaster for me. I calmed down after that and then Kaken hugged me tightly. I knew my mental health wasn't well, and in fact, I feel as though I need to be placed in a mental hospital. We reached home at 1 that morning, and UA was a year away from and I think I needed this entire year off at a hospital. I walked into my room and then I sat down, breathing in and out. Kaken sat down after he changed. It was time. Time to say goodbye for a bit. "K Kaken?" I asked. He grunted. "Mizuku." Tears fall down my face, then I finally heaved those words out. "I need to be placed into a hospital, my mental health is shit." After those words we sat awkwardly in silence and then Kaken said yes, he agreed with me. It was my last day at his house and I was packing my bag. He came behind me quietly and hugged me before saying, "I love you. Stay hopeful there. I'll miss you a lot." I hoisted my sage green Converse duffel bag around my waist before picking up my bag and then I pulled on my shoes. We left into the driveway and I sat in back seat of the car and I turned around in the car and waved goodbye to Kaken for the most of the year. Bakugo's POV. Love can be a backstabful beach sometimes. It's tough to love someone when they try love you. I walked back into the house and slammed the door shut in tears before racing upstairs, slamming my door shut and falling asleep. Creator's thoughts. Tora_demand_Tora_demand_. Poor Katsuki's sad face. Comment. Zero comment. Chapter 22. Mental Hospital and the New Year. Bakugo's POV. It was weird being without Izuku all holidays. I missed him so much. I knew it would help him at the end, but I felt different without him. The month went by slowly without him. I just wanted him back home safely. I needed to tell my mum that I was gay as well, but I reckon it'll wait for a bit longer. It's New Year's Eve and he's coming home today. It's a bitter winter here in Japan. It's bitter and colorless without him. The doorbell rings. I race down the stairs and wrench open the door, running out into the slippery driveway, and when I see Izuku, I grab him so tightly that we crash down to the floor laughing and crying. I pulled him up and he grabbed hold of his bags and walked up into the house. I held his hand the whole way into the house. Izuku's POV. I crashed to the ground in tears while laughing. Kaken really did miss me. He cared and he was worried about me the whole time. Then we're in our room kissing each other till we're breathless. I'm cuddling with him and talk about my experience. My depression was the worst in the middle of the month, but during the end I got so much better. They nurse wardens noticed my improvement and then they let me discharge out of the hospital. End of POV. We have an end-of-year party at our friend's house and we're getting ready for the party. I was nervous cause it was the first time I was back with people from school in a month. I had a present on my air mattress. I picked it up and asked Kakin what it was and he just laughed. I tore open through the packaging and it was the UA uniform. I smiled, then I placed this in my cupboard before grabbing hold of my tuxedo for the party. We changed quickly, then did our hair before slipping on our shoes and driving to their house. Kakin had gotten his driver's license during the time I was away, so we drove down to their house. The party was raging on inside. Music was blaring as we walked into the driveway of their house and the items of a late-night party were strewn on the lawn, liquor bottles, streamers, confetti and empty pizza boxes. The front door was wide open and we entered into the house, before we were ambushed by our friends who hugged me first cause they hadn't seen me in so long. Drinks are on the left in the kitchen, food in the main dance floor, and fireworks outside at midnight exactly, they said. I left the group and headed into the main kitchen, grabbing hold of a beer and then a bottle of vodka and a glass. I handed the bottle of beer to Kakin before pouring myself a glass of vodka. I grabbed a pizza slice and slid it onto my plate before downing my glass of vodka with no stress. Whistles erupted from behind my back. "Chug the whole bottle, Meteora," yelled the crowd. I wobbled a bit before popping off the cork and downing the whole bottle of vodka. Kakin was nearby and when he heard the crowd scream, he noticed me with an empty bottle and then as the crowd evaporated he carried me up the stairs into one of the rooms. "Geez. You're more drunk than me right now, nerd," he said. I giggled. "Knew it," said Kakin. We were in the bathroom. Lights completely dimmed down. I was still drunk. The door was slightly ajar but Kakin didn't give a DMN about the door at this point. He had me cornered, and especially when I was high on alcohol. Our tongues were glued to each other's before he biting my neck and then unbuttoned my blazer and shirt. "Lift me," I said. "Will do, you greedy nerd," he said huskily before pulling down my trousers and his. He picked me up and wrapped my legs around his waist before pounding into me without no comment. I ammed loudly. He started kissing me and sking on my tongue. Our tongues were dancing in each other's mouth. His mouth tasted like beer and I didn't mind. He was my goddamn boyfriend for a reason. "Where's Meteora and Bakugo?" asked Kyo. "I don't know. I saw them run upstairs to my room." Kimmy said, "They're not up there for sure." Kyo said, "Should we check the downstairs bathroom then? God knows if they're FANG each other." "Meteora's drunk," we both said. We walked downstairs and then to the bathroom. The door was slightly ajar. "You don't want to go there, trust me," someone yelled from behind us. We pushed the door open and saw Meteora and Bakugo, entwined around each other, kissing. We slammed door shut. "You were right, my God. We shouldn't have gone there," we said. I zipped up my breathes and pulled on my shirt and blazer before leaving the bathroom wobbling slightly. Me and Kakin held hands and we went out into the backyard. The fireworks were starting in 10 more minutes. Just 10 more minutes till the new year. I was embarrassed. We were FENG till the last 10 minutes of the old year. The countdown had begun. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 1. Happy New Year, we all yelled as the fireworks went off. "Happy New Year, nerd," said Kakin. "Happy New Year, Kakin." We hugged and then kissed. This year was finally over. I couldn't believe we were in training school now. Creators' thoughts. Tora_demand_Tora_demand_. When I made this chapter, I cried so much. It felt as though my characters were brought into reality. Yes, they fed and got drunk. But they've gotten through a lot. A whole FING year. I wish the best for these two for my next chapters. Narrator's comment. Making a story with these two have been at the bottom of my heart for so long, especially covering the topics of bullying, depression, anxiety, and abuse. Thank you guys so much for your support for this story, and can we aim for 50K views by the end of the year? Comment. 0 comment. Chapter 23, New Year, Part 2. We watched the fireworks in awe, and before we knew it we were in the new year. A fresh start to my life. We were in UA this year, and for the next 3 years I would be found training as a beginner hero with Kaken. I felt arms close around my waist, and then slip under my shirt. Kaken dash, I stuttered. He started tracing my scars. You're appealing Izuku. You deserved so much better from my side rather than getting bullied, he said. We reached home at 2 in the morning, and surprisingly our parents were still up partying for the New Year. Before we opened the living room door I asked him if we should tell them we're dating. Kaken nodded. We were ready to tell them. I opened the living room and they noticed us and pulled us into the main part of the living room. Music was blaring through the speakers and then I grabbed hold of the speaker's cable before pulling it out. Aunt Mitsuki. I'm gay. I've been dating Kaken for a year now. We just wanted you to know. The silence was so loud. They were staring at me. I was shriveling up and before that I fell down to my knees. Welcome to the panic room. Where all your darkest fears come true. The voice rang inside my head. I felt arms wrap around my chest before I was heaved up and pulled out the room and upstairs. As I was pulled upstairs I felt tears fall down my cheeks. I know I can survive. I've walked through hell to save my own life. I wanted to end it so bad. I did everything I can. Another year bites the dust. I'm doing the best I can. They've not broken me. I'm still out here fighting for peace. I said to myself in my head. Kaken pulled me up off my knees. What the hell happened down there? He said. Are you okay? At those words every plug in my body was released and I felt my body drain out in tears and screaming. Oh shit. Kaken said, turning off the lights. Let's get you out of these clothes, he said before grabbing hold of my PJs and taking off my blazer, tuxedo shirt, trousers. I pulled on my shorts and t-shirt. What am I doing wrong? I said. I've tried everything to save my life from being engulfed in darkness. I said. I know you can survive Izuku. Trust me. I went into the bathroom to wash my face and Kaken went downstairs to grab a bite. I heard the door creak open and I turned around. It was Aunt Mitsuki. I apologize for not saying anything about you dating our son. We were shocked, said Masaki. I know you guys were shocked. I saw it on your face but I hope you're not homophobic. I said, wiping my face with a towel. Kaken was behind them. In fact I'm bisexual, Mum. Kaken said. I figured it out yesterday. I used to like girls but now I like him. He said, his voice slightly cracking. We never said you'd have to be straight, Katsuki, they both said. We love you too either way. They hugged me first, then Kaken. Oh, and since it was your 18th birthday last year, Katsuki has a present downstairs in the light green balloon downstairs. You'll need a pin to pop and see the present, said Mitsuki. They left and went into their room. Kaken chuckled. I want to see your reaction when you see the gift. We walked downstairs and into the living room, where a single green balloon was weighted to the ground and then a small pin beside it. Ready? He said. Ready. I popped the balloon and a turquoise green emerald and silver ring fell out, and as realization hit me, I turned around to see Kaken on one knee. I know I'm not all romantic and chic, but will you be my boyfriend? He said. I slid the ring onto my ring finger and then I ran into his arms and we both crashed down to the floor laughing. Yes, I'll be your boyfriend. The next day came in with a flash. I buttoned up my shirt, pulled my tie, pulled on my blazer, trousers and boots. I looked in the mirror and scanned the new pristine uniform I had. Kaken was wearing his UA uniform as well. We pulled on our satchels and walked downstairs for breakfast, only to finish as we heard the UA bus roll up into our driveway. We got onto the bus and sat down. I shared my earphones with Kaken and we rolled onto the highway for the first day of hero training school. Creators' thoughts. Tora_demand_Tora_demand_. Enjoyed reading this scrumptiously long chapter? I appreciate how much you guys have helped me write this story. Because of all of you I've been motivated to continue writing, unlike some of my other dead stories. Thanks, laughing face. Comment. 0 comment. Chapter 24. Part 1. We rolled into the grounds of the Universal Academy. The bus came to a stop in the bus stands, and I pulled out my bags and hoisted them around my waist and my suitcases. The school was humongous and spacious from the outside, with picnic areas strewn on the lawn with bushes surrounding them. I held Kaken's hand as we walked up the tree-lined driveway and into the glass building. As everyone filled the reception, we were introduced to our teacher, Sensei Aizawa. We were introduced to all the utilities, and then we were given our dorm keys. I was directly across Kaken's room, which was excellent. I dropped my bags in my room and started assorting my room's decorations, bedspread, pillows, gaming set, and plants. After that, I pulled out a stack of Polaroid photos and stuck them to the wall beside my bed. They were photos of New Year's Day, the trip in Kyoto, and the time I came back from the hospital. I stuck a corkboard on the wall in front of my PC set and then left for the introductory tour. After the tour, I came back to my room to change into my PJs before throwing on a cardigan and walking down to the cafeteria for dinner. People were introducing themselves to each other. I slid into a seat beside Kaken before looking up and seeing he was blushing. "What?" I said. "You never told me you had lip and cheek piercings," he said. "Sometimes even I forget that I have piercings all over my body." I was walking down the hallway to my room with headphones on, blasting Heaven and Back before I was pulled into Kaken's room by him. He turned off his light and slowly took off my cardigan. It never said in the rules we couldn't have SEC in ground. He turned his LED light on and turned it to a dark rose red. He unbuckled my binder and I felt my body turn on. He pushed me onto the bed, making me lean against the bed frame. "Kicha-dash," I said, but was cut off because of him kissing me. "Shush, you'd better be quiet, Izuku," he said. I whimpered. "Good boy," he said before pushing me down onto the mattress. Bakugo's POV. I wake up the next day with the nerd laying next to me, shirtless with hickeys all across his scarred and freckled body. I got out of bed and pulled on my track pants, shirt, and sweater. Yawning, I head out into my balcony and start stretching. I'm almost done when I see the nerd awake in bed, red as a tomato. "Good morning, sleepyhead," I said, laughing. "Kill yourself, Kaken," he said, before he fell out of the bed. "Need help there?" I said, grinning. He got up and I couldn't help but laugh. He had a limp. "I'm going out to town for a haircut," he said. He pulled on his shirt, cardigan, and breathes before leaving with music blasting in his headphones. End of POV. I walked down the hallway blushing before turning into my room and shutting it. I had to change. Quickly I changed into my black binder, a black printed t-shirt reading, "Chase Atlantic, Across the Atlantic Ocean," a black and gray striped cardigan, and some baggy jeans. I hung my headphones around my neck to hide the one of the many hickeys from last night. Then I pulled on my sage green thick-sole Converses and fastened a rainbow pin to my cardigan reading, "Gay and Proud," before pulling on a sage green Converse bag and walking out to the front of the school. People were already at the bus stands as it was the holidays, and then I heard breathing. Kaken was next to me. He was fully changed. "I need a haircut as well, Aizu," he said, catching his breath. Creator's thoughts. Tora_demand_Tora_demand_. Don't know who's gayer. Izuku, a short, emo, sage green liking boy, or Katsuki, a tall, Y2K goth and beige liking boy. I feel so depressed writing this story. I wanna die. Please help me identify who's gayer. Comment. 0 comment. Chapter 25, UA, Part 2. We caught the next bus to the main town in central Tokyo. Kaken had split up to go his own way and I searched for a haircut salon. I found one in Middle Tokyo and went inside. There was a short wait, so after 15 minutes I head to the open seat and sit down, then I show them the photo of the haircut and sat down in the seat. I was getting my hair dyed red from the front as well. They completed the haircut immediately and then told me to move to the dyeing station. I showed them another photo of the color and style. After it was dyed, I walked out of the shop and called Kaken. He told me he was at a ramen restaurant south of where the barber shop was. I walked down the street and then after a few minutes I reached the ramen store. I pulled on my hoodie and walked in. I was nervous to show Kaken my new haircut. I walked in and saw him in a corner booth and sat down with him. He looked up at me and said, "What's up with the hood? You embarrassed of your haircut or something?" I pulled down my hoodie and showed him what it looked like. "Holy shit, you look hot," he said. My face turned red and my heart thumped loudly in my ears. We were interrupted by the waitress who asked us what we wanted, and at the moment she mentioned we have a devil's ramen contest. Whoever finishes the bowl wins an All Might plushie. Then she left. I gave Kaken my puppy eyes and he scoffed. Fine, he said. We called the waitress back and she came back with 2 small bowls of the devil's ramen and our booth crowded up. Let the challenge begin. Kaken ended up winning, and I ended up dying of spice. He handed me the All Might plushie and I hugged him tightly. The booth was crowded with people clapping and we both got up and left. We walked down and back to the bus stand and then took the UA bus home. We walked up the UA driveway and walked into the school where there was huge commotion. There was a crowd, and as soon as we got in we were pushed into the front. They were jeering at us and I was so confused. They're gay. Beat them up, they yelled. I was pushed back and forward and I turned my head. Kaken was already bleeding from the nose and hands. I was pushed onto the ground and I fell face forwards, breaking my noses inside. I teared up in sorrow. It was high school all over again, and this time Kaken was getting more blamed. I fell unconscious after what felt like an hour of being beat up. I woke up in a hospital bed, with Kaken next to my bed all bandaged up. I turned my side and then tears started pouring down my face. My phone was next to me and then I plugged in my headphones and turned on Cardigan. I knew I'd curse you for the longest time. You'd come back to me. I felt an hand graze my face. It was Kaken, and as soon as he pulled me into a hug I exploded into tears and I just screamed till my voice was hoarse. What are we doing wrong? I said. We need to break up. Promise me, it'll work out at the end. Zuku, he said. I nodded and pulled off my ring and gave it to him. Keep it safe, I said. I love you and I'll promise to be the best I can, he said. Comment. Chapter 26, UA, Part 3. I woke up at 7 that night with tears and eye bags staining my face. I walked down for dinner in tears, listening to Elastic Heart. I felt so sick without Kaken. I love him so much. I walked to the line at the buffet and got my food before walking back. I opened my container of miso soup, and I tried eating the soup at least, but I was unable. I just played with my food until I heard the teacher say lights out. I walked back into my room and then I switched off my light and turned on my cloud roof light and then with my earphones in, and I nearly fell asleep when a few girls knocked on my doors. I opened it and for the first time in ages I saw Kimmy. Kimmy from middle school with Mina and Achiko. We saw what happened. And we heard you broke up, Deku-kun. We feel bad for you, they all said. I told them I felt sick without him. They gave me advice about how to overcome a breakup, and after an hour I shut the door and then I stayed awake in bed for the rest of the night. I looked out at the stormy night and rain bashed against my window. I wanted to escape. I wanted to fly. Zero comment. Chapter 27, UA, Part 4. As an insomniac and depressed person I couldn't sleep. I stayed up till sunrise of the next morning and I heard noises from the rooms surrounding me, including Kaken's. I got up and changed into my uniform before opening my door and walking down the stairs and into the classroom. I stumbled face forward into a mirror and then I look at myself. A ugly, useless, skinny, depressed, sleepless and broken 18-year-old boy who wants to be a hero but lost everyone he loves because they hate him. I walk down the stairs and into the classroom. I fix my hair before I enter the classroom and walking to my seat. In front of Kaken. I look up to the board. The teacher is writing his name and then the topic. I pull out my Nudo, notebook in Japanese, out of my bag and then I start writing. The teacher has asked us to sketch our hero costumes over the week and choose our sparring partners. Everyone's chosen their other friends and the only one left for me is Kaken. I had to spar with him for the rest of school. Got to be kidding me. The bell rings for recess and I exit the classroom first and then instead of going to the cafeteria and got outside to the picnic areas. I needed air. I laid down on the picnic rug and watched a storm form in my eyes. Beautifully dark just like me. It starts raining and I'm at relief from the world. I hear thunder crash and lightning strike. It's pouring at this point and then I'm soaked. Someone notices me lying there doing nothing and runs out with an umbrella. He's tall. He's handsome. He's Kaken. Get up, he said, and I just sat there not getting up. I said get the F up, he says again. I get up and hoist my satchel around my waist and I run off to the classroom as the bell rings. It's sparring time. We meet a huge base ground with caves and boulders, trees and shrubbery surround us. We're supposed to fight. Me being quirkless, I had to physically fight Kaken, someone who had explosions as their quirk. I managed to win. We've been fighting till dawn. The sun is setting as I trudge back to my room sweating. I take a shower in my room, change into my fresh PJs, crawl into bed with a small light on and my windows open to watch the rain, and I start drawing in my sketchbook. I watch the moon. It's a full moon tonight. I sketch the moon with Tokyo in the background. I finish it and then shade it before turning off my small lamp. I plug in my earphones and then watch another storm form for the whole night. Day 1 of not talking to Kaken most of the time, complete. Zero comment. Chapter 28, UA, Part 5. The sun rises again and I'm up. I hear noises again from different rooms. I get out off bed and shut my curtains and then change into my uniform. I apply foundation under my eyes to hide my ugly eye bags. I fix my piercings and then I walk out, down the same dull hallway and into the class. I pull out my notebook and continue sketching my costume, knowing at the end I'll be worthless. The bell rings for recess. I'm out again on the lawn with no food eaten and just sketching the moon from last night. I hear footsteps from the left side of me. F off if you're Kaken, I said. The person doesn't F off and stays there. I was right. Kaken's standing there and then he sits down next to me with 2 trays of food. Why do you care? It's been 2 days, I said. It's been a month, he said. Don't believe you dash, I say before my hand is tugged at and a ring slipped on. He kisses me. I blushed. Things quickly get intense. He continues kissing me and it kicks me into reality. He pushes me onto the ground. Kaken, people can see us dash, I said. He bites my neck and I give in. I need his love. I needed it so bad. I let him kiss down my neck and holding hands I walk back. He has his arm around my neck and I lean against him as we both walk up the driveway happy. Creator's thoughts. Tora_demand_Tora_demand_. My poor baby's sad face. A month passed with them broken up. I'm so glad Katsuki got him back. Zero comment. Chapter 29, UA, Part 6. We walk into the UA grounds and into the main building before we enter my room. I look at my emerald ring as it glints in the light. I love you, I said hugging him. I love you more, Kaken said, hugging me back. We stop hugging and then he starts kissing me like never before. I look into his eyes and feel tears fall down my face. It's the end of training school forever. We're getting ready for the end-of-year party and graduation. We have rented out an entire function center. There was a talent show and I had been practicing all year. The songs I'm singing are Until I Found You by Steven Sanchez and Checks by Chase Atlantic. I'm in my room practicing my song and halfway through when I hear a knock on my door. I open the door, it's Kaken. He's dressed in a black and white tuxedo, with a black coat and a turquoise rose in his pocket. He hands me a bouquet of orange roses. I breathe them in and put them in my orange-stained amber vase with water. Students, please proceed to the last floor of the grounds. Buses will be met there and find your roll call teachers. They'll tell you what to do, said Nizu through the school intercom system. I change into a light orange tuxedo with lace cuffs and then I quickly wash out my hair. I wanted my authentic hair color to work and it did. I pulled out my piercings, leaving only my ear ones. Then I held Kaken's hand and we go down the stairs. We got onto the bus and sat down. I watched the nightlife pass by and I shared my earphones with Kaken. After an hour we reached the function center and my jaw dropped. There were tables with jewels scattered all across them and a huge dance floor and buffet. There was a huge stage and a line of people. It was the talent show people. I pulled at Kaken's hand and we walked up with our costumes and then wrote down what we're doing. Zero comment. Chapter 30, Part 7. Music was blasting, fog was spewing as well as we jumped onto the dance floor. As Kaken got carried away with dancing, I went off to the wine fountain and grabbed a glass of wine. I stumbled onto the dance floor and started dancing. Whistles erupted around me and then Love Story played by Taylor Swift. Screams erupted from all the couples. Kaken was still dancing and I decided to go out where there were seats. It was cool, but humid night out here in Tokyo. Then memories of the first time me and Kaken flashed in my mind. I love him so much. He's a walking heart eater. Bakugo's POV. I'm dancing with some of the girls in my grade, before I move up and ask Kimmy where Izuku was. She says that he went outside for a breath. I stumble as I walk up, I'm already drunk. I'm planning to F Izuku and get him P-Arginin-T. This time I'm not playing safe. I've been playing safe with condoms through my entire high school life, and this time I'm gonna smash him till he can't walk at all. We're getting married soon, so this will be my chance to smash him. I stumble out to the front area and Izuku is sitting there picking lilies from the lily bush he's sitting against. He tucks one into his hair and then notices me. I don't want to smash him yet, I'm waiting till we're married. I laid down in his lap. I love him so much. We gaze up at the stars, then I lean against him, pull his shirt and slam my lips onto his. He gives in to my kiss and pulls at my collar. I break apart and then hugs him. I love him so effing much. He's blushing as I rest my head on his shoulder. Izuku's POV. His kiss. It was so unexpected and fired. He tastes so good. I can't wait for us to get married and have children. I love him too. I rest my head on his head. I look up, see someone standing there. And it's someone from our grade. Shoto Todoroki. I start panicking. I've had bad blood with him since the first year of training school. He's seduced me 5 times. He crouches beside me and my blood runs cold. He grabs hold of my hand and freezes them with his quirk, before pulling my collar and dragging me out to the bathrooms. I scream. I continue screaming. Let go of me, you fucker. I have a boyfriend, I scream. He slams the door of the bathroom shut and ices its handle. I hear banging on the door. He's so close to me, forces a kiss on my lips, as the door blasts open. I grunted. The person has ash blonde hair and deadly ruby eyes, with the fuel of murder in its pupils. Kaken grabs hold of Todoroki's left arm, ice arm, and uses the right arm, firearm, to unfreeze my hands. Get out of here now and run, said Kaken. My hands unfreeze and I run for it, and after a few minutes I heard a groan in pain, and Kaken running out. He runs out to me and hugs me. I tear up and then collapse into his arms. I'm distressed from the cornering, then I walked with him to the function center and back into the center. Chapter 31, UA Part 8. It's time for the graduation ceremony. We stumble into the building and sit down in one of the booth seats where we were met with a chocolate fountain and some sides. We had cookies, bananas, marshmallows. I grabbed hold of a marshmallow and coated it in chocolate before I heard the microphone turn on and the addressing of the parents. I wished my mum could see this. One by one names were called and someone who I thought wouldn't ever graduate because of what he did to me, graduated. This person was Todoroki. I rolled my eyes. I waited patiently for my name to be called, then it was nearing the end. My heart was racing and I was tearing up. Kaken's name was called and he went up for his award, and then finally, we present to you the number on hero of the next generation, Izuku Midiora, they announced. The hall roared with clapping and whistles, and me, that quirkless boy, got up to receive my diploma announcing me as the next generation, number 1 pro hero. I stumbled onto the stage in tears, and then Aizawa-sensei handed me my diploma. As I got off stage I looked at Todoroki and pulled a sneaky middle finger at him, and then the music started and I recognized it instantly. Metal About by Chase Atlantic. I dropped my diploma to Aunt Mitsuki, then pulling Kaken off his seat I grab him and we evaporate into the crowd to dance. The party is strong till 3 in the morning, and we stumble back to our dorms after catching the public bus. People were throwing streamers, popping bottles of alcohol, and with Kaken cuddling my waist, I shoved open my door and slammed it shut behind, tearing up. I thought I'd never become the number 1 hero, quirkless, I said, as tears fell down. Kaken hugged me. You deserved it. More than me, he said. I went into the bathroom to change into my pajamas, then I turn on my Bluetooth speaker and click play on my playlist. Comment. 0 comment. Chapter 32, UA Part 9. I come out from the bathroom with wet hair and wrap a towel around my head and walk outside into my balcony. Kaken is there looking out. I pull off my cardigan and then walk to him and hug him from behind his back. He turns around and then pushes me against the railing before kissing me. We kiss for a long time, and he wraps my legs around his waist. He's so pretty, it hurts me sometimes. As we kiss again, my heart burns. I look into his eyes and he looks away. Katsuki's POV. His eyes are so green and fierce. I feel my heart burn as I look into his eyes, then I look away. End of POV. I kiss Kaken and don't let go until he pulls away from me. I'm needy. As an omega, my heat was going to start soon. I slip back onto the balcony and into my room, before shutting my curtains. I lay down on the crisp sheets nearly falling asleep, then I hear a knock. I open my door and Achiko comes in with tears. I asked her what happened and then she screams into my arms. Kimmy. She committed suicide, she said. I fell to my knees. Kaken runs in and then I cry like nothing ever happened. I cry like a baby. I crawl into a small ball, and then I lean against the wall, and cry in my arms till next morning until 6 am, when I wake up. Kaken is on the floor next to me with his hand in mine. I get up and then start packing my bags. We finish packing and our stuff moves back to Kaken's house. I walk down the stairs where Achiko hands me an envelope labeled, "My last note from Kimmy, to Izuku Meteora." I tuck it carefully into my pocket and then hoisting my duffel bag, and dragging my suitcases out where Aunt Mitsuki was waiting. I placed my suitcases into the booth and sit down in the back of the car with Kaken, looking out with music in my earphones, then leaning against the cold glass of the car, I fall asleep in tears. I wake up with a mix of emotions bubbling in my heart, head and stomach. We were 5 minutes from home and as we pull up into the driveway, the voices in my head started again and started yelling, "She died because of you, you fucker." I got out of the car with my bags and walked up the driveway, barging into the house and straight upstairs. I slammed the door shut and locked it, before opening my drawers and seeing a box cutter blade. I stood so clean for so long, but I couldn't give it anymore. I grabbed hold of the blade and grazed it across the skin of my arms, before pressing it in hard. Blood trickled down my arms, and then I moved further up. I did the same to my other arm, before wrapping my hands in bandages and gauze, holding it close with a pin. I walked downstairs and was met with Kaken. He looked down my arms and then looked back at my face. "Why did you do this? You stood clean for so fng long and you started again today?" he said. I tried finding my voice then, I burst out and yelled, "I'm effing sorry, okay?" I said. He stuttered and walked towards me as I started crying. He hugged me before searching my drawers, and finding that blade. He threw it outside. "Don't you effing dare do this again," he said before pulling me back out of the bathroom and into my room, and then he pulled off my bandages, cleaned the scars I had just cut in, changed me, pulled me onto the bed before falling deep into sleep. Creator's thoughts. Tora_demand_Tora_demand_. My loves. Izuku. You stayed clean for so long. And Kimmy. I didn't mean to hurt you readers like this, but she was going through way too much shit secretly, and she just gave up on life. I feel bad for all of them cause they're battling against their mental health as young adults. It hurt me making this chapter. I hoped you enjoyed this emotional chapter. Comment. 0 comment. Chapter 33, Moving Part 1. I woke up the next day and started packing. I hadn't slept well at all last night, so I was cranky. I finished packing before 2 people came in and took out our furniture, then they left. I pulled my cloud roof down, then the LED lights before walked out and placing them in a box. I had a letter from Kimmy, and then taking one look at it I walked downstairs, to where Mitsuki was parked, then I put my box in the car, and as I sat down I tore open the letter. It was a long one. Dear Izuku Meteora, if you're reading this, yes, I'm dead. I apologize for not telling you, because I could have overcome my suicide. I blame my mum, dad and older brother for this. Along with them, my mental health was so shit. I tried talking to my mum and dad but they never gave a shit. I couldn't fall asleep for days and then I just gave up. I'm sorry for not showing up to the ceremony, before dying. Just know I'm watching you and Katsuki from above. I've finally removed the longest curse off my family line, but in the best and worst way possible. I've been not only set off at my parents, but at my boyfriend. I thought boyfriends were supportive, but that shithead of a so-called boyfriend, he didn't care. I tried talking about it to him, but look at how it turned out. I love you all, well except my boyfriend, brother, mom and dad. Your loving, Kimmy Himawari. I folded the letter and I just spilled inside my stomach. I had the urge to die and join her, but I had Kaken. He was the reason I'm still here, and it would hurt both of us if we both died. Kaken was reading his letter and he sniffed. He wrapped an arm around my neck, pulling me close. I just knew this feeling. Her funeral was on Sunday, which was tomorrow, and I wasn't prepared. I watched the world outside with red eyes, thinking about two things. How to say this without breaking? I loved, and I lost her, and how could this world be so cruel to someone who was trying to be their best? I wiped my face and continued looking outside, and I heard Kaken hiccup in tears. I hugged him and we comforted each other. We just awaited tomorrow. Creator's thoughts. Tora_demand_Tora_demand_. I have no words to express how sick I feel from writing this. And I yet have to write her funeral. Well, this is the life of a writer. Comment. Zero comment. Chapter 34. Moving Part 2. The next day came loud. We woke up to a stormy morning and then I changed into a black t-shirt, a black cardigan, some black baggy jeans. Pulling on my black thick-sole Converses, I walked downstairs, and where breakfast was set. I wolfed down some eggs, toast with avocado and a glass of beetroot and ginger juice before I grabbed hold of my bag and waited outside at the bus stand for Kaken. He reached just in time for the bus before it left. We got on and sat in one of the seats. I rested my head on his shoulder with tears falling on my face. We reached after an hour and walked down to the church where there was a large black-wearing mass. I walked into the church with Kaken and sat down to hear the prevalences. Me and Kaken got home crying at 1 p.m. in the afternoon. I ran upstairs, Kaken following me closely, before I shut the door of our room and I changed into some PJs, and then I crawled into my bed, tears stained across my face. I laid down in the bed with Kaken cuddling me and I told myself it's no one's fault. Comment. Zero comment. Chapter 35. The Wedding Part 1. Preparations of me and Kaken's wedding had started the following week. I was constantly in and out getting groomed, beautified, and having my hair trimmed. I was looking at wedding dresses when Kaken sauntered in with a standard but CC black and white tuxedo. The wedding was today. I was rather nervous for. I got up at 8 o'clock to get my dress, veil, and bouquet fitted. Me and Aunt Mitsuki drove down to the dress fitted. Kaken was with his dad, and he had to stay with him since he couldn't see his bride yet. An hour later we pulled up to the wedding dress store. I entered and in the center was my tailored butterfly wedding dress. It was sparkly, pristine, and sure to make jaws drop. After a few talks, the tailor and Aunt Mitsuki helped me into the dress and laced up the corset. They placed a tiara onto my head with a long butterfly veil dragging behind, and Aunt Mitsuki handed me a white lily bouquet. I was ready. I pulled on foggy gold high heels and fixed my hair. They both squealed. They gave me the thumbs up and we headed back into the car. I phoned Kaken to see how he was going, and he said he's getting his suit tailored. I hung up and then a few hours later we entered the function center. Clapping erupted as I entered, slightly stumbling on my dress, and I went behind the stage and waited. The stage and front were linked so I could walk back down to the stage on the red carpet when it was my cue. People were eating and enjoying the meals when all of a sudden my theme, Perfect Ed Sheeran, came on, and quickly I grabbed hold of my bouquet, went out as the bridesmaids started throwing petals onto the ground. Aunt Mitsuki was by my side the whole time, and I sauntered up the aisle to whispers of awe. I looked up and blushed. Kaken was standing there in the same tailored tuxedo he told me about earlier. I climbed up the stairs, where the priest was standing. "You look appealing," he said. "You look handsome," I said, holding back tears of happiness. I ascended up the stage and stood there waiting for the priest to begin. He read out the vows from the Bible and finally, "Do you Katsuki Bakugo take Izuku Midiora as your husband?" Kaken nodded. "Do you Izuku Midiora take Katsuki Bakugo as your husband?" I nodded. "You may kiss the bride." He slid the ring onto my ring finger and pulled me into a long kiss to clapping. I walked down with his hand in mine and then down to the massive 9-tier wedding cake, decorated in semicolons and butterflies. Grabbing hold of the knife, I cut out a wedge and feed it to Kaken. He feeds me a wedge as well. We finish eating and greet the rest of our friends before calling all Omegas up to the stage for the bouquet throw. Kaminari, Kirishima, Siro, Achiko, Momo all shift onto the floor, and as they did I threw my bouquet into the air and it lands into Kaminari's hands. He turns around as the floor clears and Hitoshi is one knee. He yells yes and hugs Shinso. The party ends at 12 am that night. My legs are hurting from dancing and from the heels. I trudge into the hotel room and take off my heels. As I take them off, I'm ambushed by Kaken and he slowly starts unlacing my corset. I blush. I want to have kids with you, Izuku, he says. I want to have kids as well. I nod and he pulls me into his arms and starts kissing me. It's happening again. My heart is about to explode. He runs his finger across my lips and then he fully unlaces my corset, pulls it off, and then takes off my skirt. I never knew you were this appealing. I wish I knew earlier, he said. I turn on my Bluetooth speaker and clicked play on Dusk Till Dawn, and after it starts, Kaken shuts the curtains, sets some sheets down, lays me down, and we spend the whole night making love. Creator's thoughts. Tora_demand_Tora_demand_. They're too cute, I swear to God. Bakugo has been blessed with an angel from heaven. I love these two so much. Zero comment. Chapter 36, Adult Life Part 1. I got up to early morning sickness and ran to the bathroom. I hurled into the tub and after that I took a shower and changed. I was sticky from last night's event. I let the warm water trickle down my back and I relaxed all of my body. I got out of the shower and changed into a sage green cardigan and some light blue baggy jeans before pulling on my authentic sage Converses. I cleared up the mess and told Kaken to get up. I put my wedding dress safely in my bag and zipped it up. Then after an hour me and Kaken went downstairs to find our automized Mercedes-Benz. I hopped in and Kaken told me our new house's location. I entered it and then sat down at the wheel, reclined my seat, pulled on a soft blanket, my sleeping mask and my earphones. I clicked play on Sociopath before snapping my black eye mask on and falling asleep. I woke up in a bedroom, surrounded with potted vine plants, lilies, white roses. I got out of the bed and turned around. The bed I was asleep on was fitted with linen sheets, colored sage. The surroundings of the room were minimalistic. On both sides were white concrete tables mounted into the walls and on them, a stack of notebooks and a pencil holder. There were built-in lamps as well. Yawning, I get up and walk around the house. I walk into the backyard. The backyard had a vine canopy, with a huge table situated in the middle. The surroundings complete with bushes blocking the outside view into the house. I smell something cooking and walk into the house and to the kitchen. Kaken is standing there, with an arrangement of skis, herbs and a box of steamed rice. He's cooking katsudon. I walk towards him and hug him from the back. "Good evening, sleepyhead," he said, chopping spring onions, and then throwing them into the pan with rice and skis. He chops a spicy chicken tender and throws it into the pan before tossing the mixture into the air. He finishes cooking and spoons the katsudon into the bowl before topping it off with his special sauce. He hands me the bowl. I walk down to the dining room and start eating with chopsticks. Then I realize how effing lucky I am to have him as my husband. He makes such good food. He walks into the room with a bowl of spicy ramen. The fumes catch my nose. I'm still hungry. I saunter back into the kitchen, serve myself another bowl of katsudon. Kaken finishes eating and starts cooking dessert. Dessert comes an hour later. He's made raspberry and lemon tarts topped with fresh berries and citrus on top. He hands me a raspberry and lemon tart. He saunters back into the kitchen and grabs a box of lemon-flavored Pocky. I finish eating both of the tarts before starting to eat the Pocky. I'm casually eating Pocky when Kaken stands up and sticks the other end in his mouth, biting down. I'm close to his lips and he kisses me. I kiss back and he doesn't let go until I push him away. I breathe and wipe my face before leaving and entering the living room. Zero comment. Chapter 37, Adult Life Part 2. I walk into the living room and it's scarcely decorated. It has a window nook with cushions and blankets, and the living room has a big circular sage green carpet, situated under the white velvet couch. Across the wall there are two flags. A gay flag and a bisexual flag. There are Victorian-style bookshelves with stacks of my favorite literature. I scour the shelves. I have the entire Seaside Stranger series, Heartstopper series, Junju Romantica series, and Solitaire. I look up, there are vines hanging down from the top of the shelves, each slightly covering my book collection. I look outside. It's raining. The sun is setting and the rest of the world comes alive. I change into a pair of pajamas. I enter the room and Kakin is sitting in the bed and reading a book, all ducked down in blankets. He presses a button on an remote. It shuts all curtains around the house. I lie down, exhausted, and fall asleep. Months have passed and the baby bump has grown. I'm expecting the DLVRY soon. I have been checking in and out with my doctors. We have a nursery room at home set for when he or she comes in. I reckon it's a she. I'm at home working, since I can't fight and feel a kick. Kakin isn't home. He's at work fighting. I feel another kick. I feel wetness around my chair and then excruciating pain. I groan in pain, grab my phone which was nearby and call 000. I tell them I'm on labor. I tell them the address and then after 15 minutes I hear sirens. People in white suits run in with a stretcher and carry me onto the stretcher and into the ambulance. I hold their hands the whole way. We reach after half an hour and they push me to the intense labor ward. I get laid down, and with Aunt Mitsuki nearby and with her support I deliver the baby in really heavy pain. The baby comes out crying. The nurse carries it and walks off to wash it as Aunt Mitsuki squeezes my hand. I sighed in relief. As the nurse walks off, someone with blonde hair, red eyes and a surgeon coat runs into the room and then hugs me so tight when he reaches me. I heard and I came as fast as I could, he said. Our child is out and it's getting cleaned, I said. At that moment the nurse walks back in carrying our baby. It's a girl, she said. I smiled. She hands me our child and I slowly rocked it back into sleep. She's got blonde hair just like you, Kakin, I said. She has dimples and freckles, he said. After an hour or so, it woke up. I was hit with a fiery hue of ruby red. Your eyes, your hair, my freckles and no one's dimples, I said. I name her Kimmy Bakugo Midiora, I said. He nodded with tears in his eyes. I get pushed around in a wheelchair with Kimmy in my hands and then carefully, I sidle into the car and sit down, then buckle her in the baby seat. You brought her pacifier, right? I said. Kakin handed me her pink pacifier and I put it in her mouth. She slowly fell asleep. I sighed. I finally had my own child. Kimmy. The meaning of joy. We reach home after half an hour. I open the car and attach the handle onto the seat carrying Kimmy into the house. Welcome home, Joy, I said before opening the door, closing it and carrying her to the nursery. I place her in the rocking cot after changing her clothes and fixing a nappy. I shut the door before nudging her bed and it slowly rocked her to a deeper sleep. Shut the lights and turns on my wind-up lamp, which shows images of unicorns and clouds on the room's walls, and then I shut the door, walk into the bedroom, change and fall asleep waiting to see how she looks like in the future. Creator's thoughts. Tora_demand_Tora_demand_. I'm going to leave this story at 37 chapters. I've lost inspiration for the rest of the story. I'll come back to this once I get my inspiration back. I thank all of you for the support once again. Make sure to eat, sleep and stay hydrated. See you guys soon. Sage 4 lie, smiley face. Comment. 1 comment. Chapter 38, Adult Life, Part 3. I've got to go, Kakin. I have patrol today. I'll be back soon, I said, pulling on my boots. Kakin hands me a satchel with 5 meals, a few drinks and a bottle of water. Make sure to eat, he yelled. I run out into the driveway and through the rainy night, soaked. When I get to the bus I'm heavily soaked. I watch the bus drive away and onto the highway. It's 5 a.m. when I reach home again, and I knock on the door. The door opens and Kakin is standing there with eye bags under his eyes, and with Kimmy in his hands. She's wide awake and crying so loudly. I sigh. Had a tough night? I said, setting down my bag to the side. I carry Kimmy into the bedroom and then I walk downstairs, open a cupboard, fill a baby bottle with some milk formula and then I add cold water and warm it up in the microwave. The microwave dings and I grab hold of the bottle, walked upstairs, sat down beside her and then I feed her in my arms. I grab her pink pacifier after, and placed it onto the mouth, then covered her in a blanket. Simple as Kaken, I said. Go sleep, I need to take a shower, I said before leaving to the bathroom. I turn on the shower and turn it to cold and sigh in relief as I look up at the sky roof. Thunder crashes. I scrub my body clean. I look down my body. Ugly scars are scattered everywhere. I tell myself they're not ugly, it was a battle with these. I finish the shower and turn off the water and change into my PJs. I walk out into the bedroom. Kaken is still up. He's waiting for me. Then, as though a plug is removed in my body, I collapse into tears. He gets up almost immediately, and then pulls me into a hug, burying my face in his arms, hitting my tear-stained face. I hate myself for being broken at this point, Kaken, I said. He hugs me tightly. Pull yourself together and fight this sheet, I'm on your side, he said, letting me go. I nod and then I wipe my face and go downstairs to sit in my reading nook. Kaken follows me and then I sit down in the reading nook and pull out my book, Girl in Pieces, and pull a blanket on top of my body. Kaken lays down in my lap. I turn my phone on and presses play on I Found You by Amber Run. I pull the house curtains shut, then the curtains of the nook shut. I spend hours stuck in this book. I get it once. Moving slowly not to wake Kaken up, I walk upstairs. It was time. Time to truly fly. I shut the bathroom door and block it with a chair, then pull out a cylinder of sleeping pills. I eat 3. The world slowly dozed off and then I fell asleep. I wake up in a horrible state, in a hospital bed with a monitor showing my very slow pulse. I heard yelling and chattering from outside my ward. My heart is beating slower than usual. The door bangs open. My pulse is slowly creeping upwards. Kaken runs into the ward. He sweeps me up in a tight hug. You were found unconscious on the bathroom floor, he said. I sat there silent. He sits down, grabbed hold of my thighs and pulled me close before kissing me. He deepens the kiss, then in a swift move he grabs hold hands, pushes them behind, and pulls me closer. I break the kiss in a panic to breathe and then I say, "This isn't hospital." I said. He doesn't care and continues kissing me. Then he moves down my neck and starts kissing it. I skyrim. Given already, he said. I kick him and it pushes him back into reality. Done? You idiot, we're at a hospital, not FNG motel, I said. Comment. Zero comment. Chapter 39. Adult Life, Part 4. He lets go, almost immediately as nurses come and flock around my ward. He leaves the ward as 2 nurses reach mine and start surveying my pulse. I fall asleep. I wake up an hour later, in my bed. Kimmy is next to me in her cot, fast asleep. I sigh and get up, then I change. I walk downstairs and turn left into the kitchen. Kaken was cooking dinner. I walked into the kitchen and hugged him from behind. He turns around, hugs me, then he turns off the gas top and corners me into a wall. He traces my lips, then slips his hand under my shirt. Then he pulls me into his arms and kisses me. He gently licks my lips and then deepens the kiss. He traces my ribs and then with a tug he pulls me into the living room and up to the reading nook before pulling off my shirt, then skiing on my neck. "Hey," I said, with blush creeping up onto my face. He grunted and didn't budge. He continued skiing on my neck. He travels down to my legs. "We're going to get the sheets dirty if you do this," I said. "You can change them," he said. I feel my shorts slip off and get thrown onto the floor. He pulls a blanket over the both of us. He pushes me down against the mattress. "Relax for me, please," he said. I release all muscles in my body before lying down. We were about to start when we heard small footsteps and giggling. I quickly grab hold of my shorts, then pull them on. I shove Kaken off me. I look out into the hallway and it's Kimmy. She's walking alone on her legs. I squeal and then I pick her up. Kaken rolled his eyes. He hugs me from behind and then I walk down to the bedroom. She yawns. Comment. Zero comment. Chapter 40. Part 1. My name is Kimmy Bakugo Midoriya. I am 15 years old. I am the daughter of the 2 best pro heroes. I go to UA High School. I have my dad's quirk. Explosion. I have blonde hair, freckles, dimples and green eyes. I received my attitude from Bakugo. I'm fiery, explosive, self-obsessed, in a good way, and courageous. Oh, and I'm an alpha. Today is the day of the UA Sports Festival. I've been training all year. I have a girlfriend named Nozomi Ishido. She's in very strong Omega. She has ombre blush pink hair fading into light brown, pink skin and brown eyes. Her quirk is acid and gravity. I have an enemy as well. Karashir Ejiro Todoroki, he's the popular boy. Black. He has brown and blue eyes, red hair, tense skin and his quirk is hardening. He's an alpha. He's been training to top me in the class since I'm leading as the top student. We're in the practice room stretching and getting ready for our carnival today. We finish our stretching as the intercom rings and we proceed down to the stadium. We enter through the underground doors and I hear bells and roars of cheering from parents. I hope mine came to watch. The walls around us collapse and we're in the middle of the stadium. We have to give words out. It was time to repeat history. One by one we ascend up the stage and give our words. I reach and I stand up on stage and just say, I'm gonna win. Then I jump off the stage. I walk into the tunnel and line up where our numbers are. Number Karashir is behind me as far out of my sight and further down, Nozomi. I sigh. The announcements come on and I feel all nervous and sick inside. They tell you to take your marks, get set and go. Karashir makes a huge lead, and I fall behind. Cheers erupt and it rings in my ears. Somewhere I can hear my own parents through the roar of cheer, and with that I fire 10 explosions into sight and I'm neck to neck with Karashir. We've sped past about 450 students. He's shocked that I caught up this quickly. We're supposed to just do one lap. I give Karashir the peace sign and sped ahead with my quirk. I'm first place. I have one lap left to do. I cross the entrance as first and roars of joy hit my ears. I look up and I see my parents, front row, and I smile. I have one more to do. Close behind is Karashir. His parents are also at the front row. Karashir speeds up and I use my quirks. We're neck and neck again, and he gets ahead of me as he stacked propelled his ice. I throw a grenade near his toes and it explodes. He goes flying into a tree and I laugh. I use my quirk and explode my way. I'm 20 kilometers away from finishing. Now I'm 5 kilometers away. I continue running and then I realize I'm 500 meters away. I can see the exit and then breathing, I use one last explosion and I burst through into the stadium and fall onto the stadium floor to cheers and screams. In first place, Kimmy Bakugo Midiora roars through the intercom. I get up and stand holding a fist up. Close up is Nozomi and she runs through the entrance, then Karashir. He tears straight at me with his entire body hardened. He lifts a fist and tries hitting me before he is dragged away by Todoroki. It was terrifying to see him up close. He was dressed in all black. As Todoroki drags Karashir away, he says, "You'll cry like a baby when we get home, so save your drama for home." I watched Todoroki round the corner with Karashir. I sighed. Nozomi caught up with me and then kissed me. She let go as she saw my dads enter the stadium. They hugged me and ruffled my hair. They told me I was staying with Auntie for the next month and a half and I screamed in joy. Auntie was the best. We stayed back for the medal and trophy presentation. I shove in my books, my pajamas, headphones and charger as my parents walk in. I zip up my bag and grab hold of my medals and trophies and walk downstairs to the car. I sat in the car and waved goodbye to my parents. I sit down in the car and then I see a few new texts from the Kimmy squad on WhatsApp. I see the most recent message and it's a photo of Mai and Nozomi. I react with a heart and then SW's off my phone laying back in the reclined seats. It was such a tiring day today. I look out the window and stare at the scenery changing from outside. "How was your day, honey?" Aunt says. "Good. I had the carnival today," I said. My, I hope you didn't let your streak down," she said. "I didn't," I said. We reached the house about half an hour later, and then I open my bag, pull out my gold medal and trophy and show it her. She squeals and hugs me tightly. I tell I have to go shower and then leave into the house and upstairs with my towel. I soak myself under the cold water. It was so hot today. I scrub my hair clean and then change into my gothic corset tank top, my cargo bomber shorts, and link a few chains with crosses on the belt of my shorts. I put in my piercings in my nose, ears, and lip. I hang my medal on a rack, then I turn on the air conditioner and sit down in my bed. I pull out my phone and I see a few new messages again from the Kimmy squad. It was photos of them partying at Nozomi's house. I see red plastic cups, bottles of vodka and whiskey in the background, covered in streamers and confetti. Another photo is sent. It's Nozomi and she's shoved onto a pole. I blush and feel my heart thump inside my heart. The video stops as she starts to dance. I turn off my phone and then I pull out my book and headphones. I turn on Stuck in My Brain by Chase Atlantic. I felt like I was missing out on the party at Nozomi's house. I ignore it and immerse myself in my favorite book. 'Cause I'm stuck in my brain again. Stuck in my brain again. I sing out. Comment. Zero comment. Chapter 41, Part 2. I finish reading my book and set my headphones aside. I turn off the lights. I open up my phone and the Kimmy squad is blowing up with images. I set my phone aside. I felt worried, not for Nozomi but for Karasher. I saw the way he dragged away by his own parents. Todoroki looked cold when he dragged him away. I do hope Karasher is alright. I get up off my bed and turn on the fan, before switching off my light and sinking deep into the blankets. I do hope Karasher is okay. I slowly fall asleep cocooned in my blankets. Karashi's POV. I'm sorry I didn't come first. I said, my face scrunched up in pain. Todoroki drags me by the collar and throws me into my room. I collide against my desk and cough out blood. What did I train you for? He said, developing a sharp shard of ice in his hand. I hyperventilate. You trained me for first place, I said. Exactly, and you did not come first at all, he said, lifting his hand and about to strike me. He collides with my skin and it starts bleeding out. He's about to strike again and then the door bangs open. It's Dad. I'm home from patrol, he yells. I scramble onto my feet, grab hold of some bandages from my drawer and stick them on before running out in tears. I round the corner and crash into Kirishima. He sees the bandage. The face turns cold. He pushes me behind him and as he does Todoroki rounds the corner. You hurt him again? He said, his voice oddly low. Todoroki sighed. He came third, he said. Better than Fanji nothing, at least he made it onto the podium, Kirishima said. When are you going to stop hurting the both of us, not just physically but mentally as well? Kirishima said. You'll be staying away from Karasher for now, Kirishima said. He leaves and heads to the showers. You're grounded, Todoroki said. Get to your room, don't even think about calling the authorities, he said. I rolled my eyes. He walks towards me and smacks me before grabbing hold of my hair and dragging me into the kitchen. He ices my hands and then out of nowhere he pulls out a shock collar and I gasp. Keep your fat mouth shut, he said, fastening it around my neck. He unfreezes my hands and then I get up and leave. I try to cut the collar off with some scissors but it's stubborn. I was absolutely fed up with trying to escape with my dad, so, not giving a rat's arse, I dial 119 and someone picks up. I lower my voice and say, Hi, I'd like to report a child abuse case and a domestic abuse case. They ask me my details. Karasher Ejiro and Ejiro Kirishima, I said. The address is XX, I said. I hang up and just wait. The shock collar turns on just as I hang up and I shrivel up in pain and I crawl into the bed. I sit there in pain, and as if the collar turned up in pain level I start screaming. After 15 minutes I hear sirens outside and I tear out my room and open the door. My dad Kirishima was just behind me racing outside and following Todoroki. I run downstairs nearly tripping since my collar was still on. I see Bakugo and Deku standing there and as they see me with tears in my eyes Deku runs forward. Kirishima ran to Bakugo and hid behind him. Deku noticed the shock collar and then with extremely sharp scissors he cut it off in one piece. Todoroki runs downstairs and onto the driveway. As I run to get behind I have my hair grabbed. Let go of me! I screamed. Guns start to point at Todoroki and he freezes. Deku walks out as well and then with Todoroki releasing me I run back and Deku kicks him in the face. What the actual F, Todoroki, he said. I couldn't imagine that you were abusive, he said. Kirishima's voice cracks and then he rings out, he's abused me twice, once sexually and once domestically, he said. He's also abused Karasher, he sniffled. I walk back to Dad and sit down in the ambulance. I was getting tested for shock. They say my vitals are positive, and with my phone in hand I take a photo of Todoroki surrounded by police and post it onto Instagram and TikTok under the captions of, "Escaped my abusive dad, he's going to hell." I click post. It posts and I turn off my phone and plug in my earphones. I click play on I Hate You I Love You. My dad climbs into the back of the ambulance, and I rest my head on his shoulder. I felt so confused just for the sake of winning. Like he tried to get first and he hurts me. Why can't Dad be loving like he used to? What the hell happened to him? I look at my phone and I see one comment. Kimmy. I open it up and it's on Instagram. She said, "I could see that he was abusive by the way he dragged you out by the hair, and F dash. Are you okay?" she commented. There was 5 likes on my post. I switch off my phone and look out the window of the ambulance. My dad had his hands up, and then with Deku approaching him, he was handcuffed and thrown into the back of the police van. The ambulance started and we drove off and out to the hospital. I fall asleep in Dad's arms, and after an hour we reach the hospital. I wake up the next day in a bed, with the news flash on. My post went viral overnight. Over 5 million likes in a span of 12 hours? It was all the news talked about. I switch off the TV and see my messages from the Karashi squad. I open them up, it's all well wishes. I plug in my phone and look out the window. It's a sunny day. I smile. He was finally gone and out of my life, never to hurt me again. Comment. 0 comment. Chapter 42, Her, Part 3. We left an hour later after we were tested negative for trauma. The pro heroes recommended me and Dad to stay at a relative or friend's house for safety. Deku was outside the hospital and he offered us a lift to my grandparents' house. We were about 2 hours from their house. We agreed to drop Dad to our house so he could grab our bags. They agreed to drop me off, and when Kirishima was ready Deku could pick him up from the house. We reach our house and Kirishima enters and shuts the door. I sigh. Deku starts the engine and we're off to my grandparents' house. I sit in silence in the back of the car. I pull out my earphones from my pocket and look out the window with Pity Party playing in the background. I sigh. I watch the sun set into the abyss and the entire city comes alive. I've been running for way too long and I finally snapped. We pull onto a familiar road and I realize that we're almost at my grandparents' house. We pull up into the driveway of my grandparents' house and I get out and ring the doorbell. The door opens up and I get swept up by my grandmother in a tight hug. I fight a bit at first, but I give in and tears stream down my face. I sob into her chest. She lets go and I wipe my tears away. She thanks Deku for dropping me here. I enter the house. She points where my room is and I open the door. It has a TV, computer and phone charger already set up. I plug my phone into the charger and then with no words, in my tight jeans and sweater I crawl into the bed and shut the door. I fall into a deep sleep and sleep for 3 hours. I wake up to knock and I look out. It's already nighttime and I look out the window. City lights blind me. I get up and answer the door. It's my grandmother. I sighed. Dinner was the table. I decide to get up and leave into the dining room. "Kaken, I'm home," I said. I shut the door. I see a message on the fridge. Emergency patrol. I yawn and then walk out onto the deck and grab my towel before grabbing hold of my pajamas and walking into the shower. I scrub off all the dirt and indulge into the warm water. It's comforting. I get out of the shower and change, before spraying some perfume. I crawl into the reading nook and lie down there with music playing in my earphones. I look out the window and the road is silent. I fall asleep for 3 hours and wake up later to a knock. I open the door and it's Kaken. He hugs me tightly and then kisses me. I kiss him back and after that he hugs me tightly again. I smiled. It's about 9 o'clock in the night. He grabs his towel from outside and then he enters the shower and shuts the door. I wait patiently for Kaken and then after a few minutes he comes out and hangs his towel. I hug him from behind and then we start kissing. He gave me small kisses and then soon enough he started deepening them. He traces my neck and I blush. He chuckles. Then he wraps my legs around him. I gasp and then fall silent. He puts his arms up my shirt when I heard the back glass door slide open. I shove him away. "God damn it, Dash," he said. I laughed. It was Kimmy, and her eyes were red. Tears were forming in her eyes and she ran into my arms. Kimmy? Honey, are you all right? I asked. She sobbed into my chest. Her voice cracks as she tries speaking. She falls silent. Honey, are you all right? I said, getting cut off by Kimmy. Nozomi. She was found dead in her room and her neck was sliced, Kimmy said. Even I fall silent after hearing that. Kaken does as well. Tell us more, this could be a murder, said Kaken. There was no knife, she was lying there against her table with her neck bleeding out, Kimmy said. Did you check the bin? I asked. Nothing was in the bin, it was empty, she said. I sighed and I gave a look at Kaken. He realized. It's all right, honey. And besides that, we have a gift for you, I said. Kaken leaves to get the present. He comes back with a wrapped box. Kimmy wipes away her tears. I could understand she was in pain and fighting cause she had just lost her Omega. Kaken hands her the box and she opens it. She gasps. A small ginger kitten with green eyes is in the box. She picks it up. You're kidding me, she said. You deserved something, honey, after winning first place, I said. Have a name in mind? I asked. Ember, she said. There's also a cat bed, scratching post and 2 bags, one of food and one of treats. Kimmy places the kitten in the box and carries it into her room, and then she comes back with the scratching post and bags. I knew she'd love it. I walk to Kaken and then we start talking about Nozomi. Who could have done this to her? Creator's thoughts. Tora_demand_Tora_demand_. I am suffering from writer's block. Help me. As you have seen the message above, I have writer's block. Writer's block is a phenomenon experienced by writers that is best described as an overwhelming feeling of being stuck in the writing process without the ability to move forward and write anything new. I might not update for a few days until I regain my motivation and inspiration to continue this story. So if you don't see a daily chapter, please don't think I'm dead. I'm alive. I promise. See you guys soon. Creation is hard, cheer me up. Like it? Add to library. Have some idea about my story? Comment it and let me know. If you do, it really will help me write the next chapter. Thanks. Comment. 0 comment. Chapter 43, The Honeymoon, Part 1. The murder case of Nozomi was the second thing I had to worry about. But first, me and Kaken had a honeymoon in the Gold Coast, Australia. We were packing our bags just as Kimmy came into the room. We tell her she's staying at Auntie's house again. She sighs and then hugs me. I hug her back and I check the time on the clock. We have only 4 hours of rest before we leave to the Gold Coast. I finish packing my bags and heave it into my room next to Kaken's bags. Kimmy goes into her room with no word and shuts the door. I turn off my light and then pull on my blankets. Turning my side, Kaken's arms close around my waist and I blush. My stomach does a backflip. I look out the huge glass window and see stars at their brightest. I fall slowly into sleep. Then I wake up to an alarm. It's already time, said Kaken, groaning. It wasn't even dawn yet. I tell him we have to go. I hoist on a heavy coat, a pair of boots, a beanie and a scarf. It was brutally cold here in Japan and I was glad we were going somewhere tropical. I grab hold of my duffel bag, pillow, blanket and suitcase. We walk out the door after kissing Kimmy goodbye and then shut the door behind us and locking it. I put in my suitcase in the back and so does Kaken. We shut the booth of the car. Then I carry my duffel bag, pillow and blanket into the front passenger seat. I shut the door. Kaken starts the engine and I turn on the heater before we rolled out of the driveway and turned onto the highway. We were about an hour away from the airport so I could rest for a bit. My eyes slowly shut and I fall asleep in the seat. I wake up already parked in the airport and Kaken is behind the car with a trolley, hoisting our suitcases and bags onto it. Ready? He said. Ready, I yawned. The sun is up and when we enter there's a huge line. I groan. We're not going through economy, we're flying in first class, he said, and I turn my head to the first class line. No one was there. I smile. I start pushing the trolley to the first class line. We reach the desk and then the assistant asks us for our passports. I hand mine to her. It's a pleasure having you fly on our airline, heroes, she said. I walk to the belt and place my suitcases and Kaken's suitcases. We walked to our private lounge. No one was there, we had the whole lounge to ourselves. I walk to the barista bench and make a mochaccino. Kaken makes a cappuccino. I sit down in one of the window seats and look out. I finish drinking my mochaccino and then I hear our flight get called. I get up and then I start walking to the first-class boarding line and we are let in almost instantly. We walk into the flight and walk straight to the back of the flight where first class was and my jaw dropped. It was like a hotel on air. There were rooms with doors. Me and Kaken was next each other's. I open my room's door and I place my bags in the corner and kick off my boots, hang my scarf, coat and beanie. There was a divider in between me and Kaken's room and I pulled it down. The flight pilot addressed us and then told us to buckle up. I sit in the seat and put on my belt. Kaken removes the room divider. He sits down and buckles up. I open the window and look out. The flight is already moving and then finally in the air. I unbuckle my seatbelt then walk to the bathroom to change into a t-shirt and pair of shorts. I walk back into the room and so far I wasn't disappointed. Breakfast was getting served in an hour and so I decided to kick it off with a horror movie. I decided to watch Scream 6 and apparently they had the movie. I plug in the complimentary headphones that they gave with the welcome package and start watching. Kaken decides to jump in with me and he sits on the small lounge chair. We're halfway through the movie and then I pause it as I hear a knock. Kaken goes back to his room. Breakfast is being served right now. We have scones and jam, pancakes with butter and syrup, creamy mushroom and chicken pasta, 3-berry juice, orange juice and apple juice, the attendant says. I order the creamy mushroom and chicken pasta with apple juice. The order arrives almost immediately and it's in a tinfoil container and as I open it I see cheese galore on top. There is melted cheese with spring onions, and then I dug further to a creamed mushroom and chicken treasure on the bottom with fettuccine pasta. I mix it and start eating it and it feels like heaven. I finish it in no time and then I down the apple juice. I lie back in the seat and press a button to recline it, just as Kaken comes into the room and sits down. I unplug the headphones and we continue watching Scream 6. This was going to be a very long flight indeed. Creators' thoughts. Tora_demand_Tora_demand_. The gays are going to have a lot of fun when they get to the hotel room in Australia. You can imagine what they're going to do. Degree. Comment. 0 comment. Chapter 44, The Honeymoon, Part 2. We land in the Gold Coast after a long 7-hour flight. There is a taxi waiting for us and we stack our suitcases inside the boot of the car. We both sit in the back of the car and since it was night the Gold Coast came alive. I was in awe. We were staying at Novotel in the center of the Gold Coast. I hold Kaken's hand throughout the trip to hotel. In less than 15 minutes we reach our hotel and we head into the reception with our suitcases and bags. Kaken asks them for our room and she hands the key. We continue walking and then take the elevator up. He asks me to close my eyes and I do. He helps me guide my way and then we both enter the room. I open my eyes. And my jaw dropped. It was the most expensive room in the hotel. The romance room. I continue looking around and there is a loft with a sofa, TV and heaps of blankets and candles surrounding the sofa. I walk down the loft and there is a huge arch opening with rose curtains. I go through them and there is a king-sized bed there with light pink rose petals scattered on the bed. I kick off my boots, pull off my coat and jump onto the bed. Kaken saunters into the room and looks out the huge glass window. He shuts the curtains. What's wrong? I said. Kimmy asked me for a little brother, he said. No, I said blushing red. She's been lonely ever since Nozomi died, Kaken said. I said no I say. He groans and turns around before giving me a death stare. I freeze in my tracks. I said. He grins and then pulls all the curtains down before walking to the bed and crawling on top of me. Jay, just go easy please, I said, before becoming a blushing mess. He pulls off my shirt and starts to trace my neck bone and ribs. My heart races. I haven't had SEC in a while. Kimmy's POV. I wake up to a ding from my phone and it's a message from Karasher. I open up the messages and I see 5 new messages. I read them and I then realize he was confessing his feeling towards me. I couldn't believe my enemy liked me. I feel butterflies in my stomach fly around and then I reply back saying that, I like you too. The chat goes awfully quiet. I see him typing in the bottom corner and the reply comes out as a keyboard smash. Random symbols and letters are in the reply. He asks me if my parents are home after the keyboard smash. I say they're on vacation for 2 weeks. I say if you want to have a see, I'd say no cause it's risky. He replies with a frowning face. Fine, I say. So are we dating, he said. I say yes. He says he needs my address and I give it to him. I look at the top in his profile in Snapchat and he's on the move. I need to prepare myself for safe section. I lay down a sheet on the bed. He sends me another message saying that he has condoms and lube. I watch his car speed up the highway and then he turns left and onto my street. My heart races. He would be here anytime. I hear the doorbell go off and I jump. Just here. I pull on a black cardigan over my pajamas and I open the front door. He's dressed in a black compression shirt, a black jacket, some black sweatpants. His hair is down and not in the spiky hairstyle at school. Hi, I said, blushing. He comes in and I shut the door before getting slammed against wall and kissed. His kisses are fiery and heated. I've never had CC before, so this was going to be weird. He carries me into my room and before I knew it I was going to have my guts rearranged. Karashi's POV. I wake up first and Kimmy is fast asleep only in my compression shirt. She's got me effed up. I pull out my phone and take a photo of her. I create a new post and the caption reads, "Got her guts rearranged and we're dating." I post the image and SWH off my phone. She turns her side and then one of her green eyes open and when she sees that I'm next to her she turns red. She gets up and then pulls on her hood and shorts. She walks to the bathroom and washes her face before walking into the bedroom. She pulls me down and kisses me in front of her mirror, clicking a photo. I pick her up, push her against the wall, and she breaks away. I kiss her again and as I do she clicks another photo. I let her go and then I tell her I'll be leaving. I wanted her to keep my shirt so I let her keep it and then I leave. On the way home she posts the 2 photos she clicked with the caption, "Guts rearranged, I have a boyfriend." Creator's thoughts. Tora_demand_Tora_demand_. In science class I was watching a video, and I read protostar as Piri. I read IT and it still came out ASB. Comment. 0 comment. Chapter 45. The Honeymoon, Part 3, Someone's Gone Missing. I wake up from a long slumber in my bedroom and I see Karasher on my desktop playing games. He notices me and just chuckles loudly. I realize I'm naked from the bottom and I scramble for my bomber shorts. I pull my bomber shorts on and then as I try to get up my legs swerve and I fall. "Need help there?" Karasher said with a smirk on his face. I pull my middle finger at him. He laughs and then he stands up and sweeps me up into his arms. "Hungry for more?" he said. I slap him. "To the kitchen, you horny bee," I say, and he takes me down to the kitchen. I open the fridge and grab hold of one of the many glass boxes before heating it up in the microwave. I walk into the living room and turn the TV on. Karasher saunters into the room and then leans down and kisses me. I kiss back and then we break apart. "Listen, I've got to go now," he said. "I love you," I said. He leaves the room and opens the front door before I shut the door and lock it. I walk into my room just as I get ambushed by someone in all black. I wake up zip-tied to the chair and I start fighting against the zip ties. Someone with red and white hair saunters into the room. They look up and grin, and the blue and brown eyes get me off guard. "What the dash?" I yell before I get gagged. "So you fell in love with my son?" he said. I nod as tears form in my eyes. "You'll be staying here until I let you go," he said. Inside my heart, I know I can survive. With an explosion pulsing through my hands, I break through the zip ties and the shock hits Todoroki and he falls backwards. I manage to run through the place we're held and then I fall and Todoroki grabs hold of my hair. "You beach, you really thought you could escape?" he said, and with his hands in my hair he drags me back to the room I was in earlier. "What do you want?" I said. "I want you dead," he said. Katsuki's POV. I wake up first and Izuku is fast asleep beside me and then ISWH on the news. "One missing persons case in Japan, holy shit, Kimmy?" I yell. Izuku wakes up startled and then as soon as he hears Kimmy's name get called as a missing person, he gets up and pulls on his clothes and packs his suitcase. His eyes are severely red and filled with tears. I hug him from the back and he collapses. I tell him to pull his guts together and we'll get her out safely. Creator's thoughts. Tora_demand_Tora_demand_. This motherfucking dude bruh. First he abuses Kirishima and now he goes of kidnapping Kimmy. Dumbass with no loyalty fr. Zero comment. Chapter 46, The Disorder, Part 1. Warning, aimed starvation talks. Katsuki's POV. I've been researching non-stop about Izuku's problem of eating and here in the Gold Coast it's gotten way worser. They all match up to eating disorders but there's so many disorders that have the same problem. I also have to bust Kimmy out safely. Ugh, I've been way too stressed recently. Our flight back to Japan was tonight and I just couldn't switch my brain off. It's the afternoon here and I need to often fall asleep. I grab hold of my earphones and phone before plugging my earphones in. I switch my phone off and lay down. Izuku is already fast asleep in the bed, and as I shift slightly in the bed he rolls onto my chest. My heart races and then I kiss his forehead. I play with his green curls for a bit and then slowly doze off to sleep. 2 alarms awake me and Izuku is already up hoisting his duffel bag around his waist, pulling on his navy blue thick-sole Converses. He grabs hold of his suitcase and fixes his hair. I get up as well and then pull on my brown Vans and grab hold of my suitcase. We are about to leave when I delay Izuku. I noticed you've had a huge struggle eating food, and like I know you're naturally skinny but like I think you have an eating disorder, I say. The words were scary and the silence wraps us in a cold blanket. Then Izuku tears up and I walk towards him pulling him into a tight hug. He sobs into my shoulder loudly. There's no need to be afraid to reach out, Izuku, you've got my support, I said. I used to starve myself back when I was bullied by you and abused by my mum, and I know that it doesn't make sense now that you don't bully me and my mum was arrested, but I just never felt hungry in a proper way. I try to eat and then I fail 'cause I can't, he said. You can get help, I can try helping as well, I said. Izuku sighs and then wipes his tears. You think I can? He said. Of course my love, I said. I'll try, I promise, he said. End of POV. I walk outside the room with Kaken following. We walk down the corridor and into the lift. I feel slightly nauseous. Kaken? I said, feeling slightly dizzy. He said. Could we get something to eat before leaving? I said. Yeah, he said. We reach ground floor and walk into the restaurant with the bags at the entrance, and I order a cheese, tomato, ham and onion toast tie. It comes almost immediately and it has a creamy and spicy sauce. I also order a lychee crush smoothie. I start eating my half of the toast tie and Kaken grabs the other half. We finish everything and I feel less shaky from eating. I stand up and grab hold of my bags with Kaken following behind. We hand our room's card and walk outside into the tropical bliss of the Gold Coast. The wind is warm and then we call our taxi. The taxi is waiting outside and we tell him the directions. He starts the engine and we start driving off to the airport. I punch Todoroki in the face and run for it. Sirens are outside and then at the worst timing the shock collar turns open. With the pain of the collar fueling me, I wrench open the front door and run down the slippery stairs. The cops notice me and let me through as guns start pointing at Todoroki. Kirishima notices I have a shock collar on and cuts it off with a box cutter. Karasher is nearby and as he notices me he sweeps me up into a huge and tight hug. I sob into his arms and he pats my back. I haven't had anything to eat as I've been tied up to the chair for 2 days. He hands me a muesli bar and a bottle of Hydrolite. That refuels me for now. Zero comment. Chapter 47, The Disorder, Part 2. We landed in Tokyo after a long flight and hired a taxi to take us into Kyoto. As soon as we turned onto the driveway of our house we saw a flock of police cars and someone who had blonde hair wrapped in a blanket munching on a muesli bar. A person with red hair had his hand wrapped around her shoulders squeezing it. I open the door of the car and run into the driveway of the house and as soon as the blonde-haired girl's face comes clear I sweep her up in a tight hug. Kimmy, are you alright? I said, hugging her tightly. I'm fine, Dad, she said, hugging me back. She's still eating the muesli bar. I move back and then I talk to Karasher. How did you get here so fast? I asked. We knew my dad was behind this missing persons case again and we hit your house first. Then I hear screaming from inside. We waited for a bit of time and then Kimmy pelted outside and she had a shock collar on, Karasher said. Is your dad still on site in a police van? I said. Yeah, he's over there. He pointed to a black S.W.A.T. van and I approached it. I opened the door and Todoroki was sitting there chained to the back of the van from his legs and arms. He scowled. Kaken was close by just in case. Then Kaken comes behind me and whispers in my ear, want me to deal with him or do you want to deal with him? I nodded and he followed me into the back of the van and then shut the door before turning on the ping light. I can't FING believe you repeated the same sort of torture on my daughter, and I'm pretty sure you're behind Nozomi's murder as well, I said. He just laughed. Kaken walks over and punches him in the face. Admit it, you see, he said, admit you killed Nozomi. I shiver. Kaken's voice was so cold and I had never heard his voice like this before. Alright, I did kill Nozomi. What ya gonna do? He said. You little BSTRD. Do you know how much my daughter cried that day? Kaken said. Todoroki laughs. I walk out the van and into the buzzing crowd of police in tears. Kaken followed me and then hugged me. And it was all because of you, Midoriya. I wanted to marry you, but you fell in love with Katsuki F.A. Bakugo, he yelled. You're a FNG psychopath half and half, yelled Kaken before he slammed the door shut on his face. I stand there sobbing in tears and then fall to my knees. Kaken picks me up and then carries me into our bedroom even though police were searching for evidence. He laid down next to me and wrapped his arms around my waist. Hush, Izu. It's all right, my love, it isn't your fault, he said. I turn into his chest and sob there. He covers my face as Kirishima comes in. I heard the whole conversation and I can't believe Todoroki at this point now, he said. Is Midoriya all right? He asked. He's horrified that it's because of him not marrying Todoroki, Kaken said. I hold in a long sob and take a shallow breath. I wipe my face in an attempt not to cry again, but then I just give in and scream into Kaken's chest. Two arms wrap around my back and squeeze me tightly. Look, Kirishima, could you get the police to leave right now? Izuku's not in the mood right now, Kaken sighs. All right then. Call us back when you're ready, all right, he said. Yeah, I will, Kaken said. Kirishima leaves and I hear all the cars leave one by one. Kaken gets up and presses a button on the wall of our room and it shuts all the blinds across the house. Kimmy had also entered her room with Karasher. They were both giggling quietly and talking. Kaken shuts the door to block out all scraps of noise and he changes into a sweatshirt and some joggers before lying down in the bed with me and cuddling with me. I love you, Izuku, don't let anyone change that, he said before nuzzling into my shoulder and falling asleep. After an hour or so, I get up and look myself in the mirror. My eyes are red as F from crying and I want to cry more just looking at myself. I walk down the corridor and get a glass of water as well before coming back into the bedroom. As I do, I see that Kimmy's door is shut and I nudge it open. Karasher is lying in bed with her and I smile. I walk back into the main bedroom and lay down next to Kaken rubbing my head. I decide to sleep for another few hours. I wake up again, but this time to the scent of skis drifting through the house. Kimmy is already up and so is Karasher, and they're at the dining table eating dinner. Kaken was cooking 2 serves of katsudon for me and a huge serve of ramen for himself. He spoons some katsudon into a bowl and as he notices me he hands me the bowl and kisses my forehead. I sit down at the dining table and eat the first serve and then he spoons me another serve. I finish that and drink some water before walking back to my room. Kimmy and Karasher are close behind me and they turn into the lounge room to watch a movie together. Kaken decides to go watch a movie in the living room. I lie down back on the bed and fall asleep through the night just to wake up to stormy morning the next day. Comment. 0 comment. Chapter 48, Heat Season, Part 1. I wake up the next day and it's still rainy and then I walk out into the dining room and start cooking breakfast. I start making Nutella pancakes and waffles before I hear footsteps from behind me. The person nuzzles himself on my shoulder. Good morning, Izuku, you're up early, he said groggily. Good morning, Kaken, I said before finishing cooking the pancakes and waffles. I set the table with the pancakes and waffles and a pitcher of orange juice. "I'll go wake the kids up, Kakin," I said before walking back past my room and knocking on the door of Kimmy's room. Kimmy opens the door and walks out into the dining room with Karasher following behind her. "You know, we know you're dating. Don't keep up the charade anymore," I said, grinning. Kimmy turns around and rolls her eyes. I sit down at the table and help myself to some pancakes. I finish the pancakes and then whisper in Kakin's ear, "I have patrol today and make sure to drop Kimmy off to school safely." I walk back down the corridor and into my room and then change into my hero suit, and then I pull on my red boots and walk back into the kitchen before grabbing hold of my satchel. Kimmy stands up as she's finished her breakfast and walks back to her room to change into her uniform. Karasher follows behind and changes into his as well before walking back into the dining room. I wave goodbye to Kakin and walk out the front door and get onto the hero's bus. The bus engine starts and I sit down and plug in my earphones. "It's been one hell of a effing ride this year," I thought in my head. The bus stops after an hour and Achiko and Mina jump onto the bus, and when they see me they wave and I wave back. Before the bus leaves, Kirishima manages to jump onto the bus and grab a seat next to me. After an hour of watching the scenery change, we enter the city and stop. I get off the bus and the rest do. We walk to the hero agency and enter it to murmurs erupting from every corner. The heroes haven't seen me ever since the beginning of this year. I grab my office pass and catch the elevator and walk to my office, shutting the door behind me and pulling the blinds down to block out vision. I sit down in the chair and then my throat catches in my mouth and my pheromones fill the room. I start to panic and then I wrench open my drawer and look for a scent blocker. I hear crowds around my office. I find one and stick it on my scent gland and my scent vanishes. I call Kakin. He picks up almost immediately and I tell him that my heat just started at the office. Even he's nervous. I need to tap out. I walk out the corridor and down into the elevator. I dropped my pass at the reception. They ask me why I'm tapping out just after 5 minutes at the office. I tell them my heat just started. They nod and I walk out and catch the bus home. I reach home after an hour and Kakin is gone and I assume he's dropping Kimmy to the school. I grab my towel from outside, a new t-shirt and a pair of shorts. I enter the shower and I peel off my scent blocker and dump it in the bin and peel off my clothes before turning on the taps. After 5 minutes I get out and I change into my t-shirt and shorts and put on another scent blocker. I crawl into my bed and fall asleep. I wake up to the door slamming and such a strong scent of my pheromones in the air. I get up and shut the door. My scent blocker wasn't working and Kakin was home. I open the door and with my heart thumping in my chest I walk down the corridor and Kakin notices me. He immediately picks up my scent and walks towards me and then leans over me and sniffs my scent gland. Katsuki's POV. As soon as I entered the house I couldn't believe what I was smelling. It was coming from the corridor and I only noticed when I reached the end of the corridor. It was Izuku. His scent was so strong. It was the scent of citrusy champagne, with cinnamon and apple. I guess he wasn't lying about his heat kicking in. End of POV. I get pushed against the wall by Kakin and he slips his hands underneath my shirt rubbing my chest. My pheromones were growing and I was becoming needy. I pull his face onto mine and kiss him. I could taste his scent from his mouth. Bourbon? I thought. He opens the door behind me and pushes me into the bedroom. I fall onto the bed. Kakin pulls off his shirt. I gulp. "I'll be gentle, I promise," he said. I pull off my shirt as well and Kakin distracts me so much I forget about life. He slips off my boxers and his boxers before sliding in his member. I grunt loudly, and then he lifts me off the bed and angles me into a better position. I was already about to have my release, and then I did. Kakin chuckled from beneath and said, "You Omegas really are suckers in heat season." My face turns red. He continues moving and after a few more minutes he releases and we both lie down on the bed. We fall asleep. Zero comment. Chapter 49, Love, Part 1. Kimmy's POV. I feel everyone staring at me in first class and I shiver. Instead I focus on my homework and then move on to another piece. I plug in my headphones to drown out the silence. After an hour of class the bell rings for recess. I hang my headphones around my neck. On the way to the courtyard I hear muttering and then I get shoved down the last flight of stairs. You beach. You stole my boyfriend. Karasher was supposed to be mine, yelled Melissa. Melissa is one of the popular girls and pick-me's in my grade. She always tries to ruin my life, but I don't let her. I get up from the ground and stand up. A crowd grows around me and Melissa. You know why Karasher fell in love with me? He fell in love with me because I didn't need attention or anything like that, I said. He fell in love with me because I wasn't a trust fund. I was seeking independent. You would be using him only for cash and not for love, I said. Melissa's face drops. I chuckle. Laughter erupts all around us. Then comes a swinging punch right at my face. I stop the punch with my hand and twist it, then I yank her platinum blonde hair in my other hand. She screams so easily. Geez, if I wasn't the No.1 hero's daughter I would have if he cracked your skull open, I said. The crowd around me gasps. Then there's footsteps behind me and I turn around. Why, Melissa, see that beach? That beach is mine. It was Karasher. He was saying it to me. I release Melissa's arm and hair. She takes a big step away from me, rubbing her hand, and I see teardrops splash onto the ground. Pathetic, I said, rolling my eyes. Here onwards, if any one of you FS with my girlfriend, remember. I'm her boyfriend and she's the No.1 hero's daughter, he said. I could also get your life effing ruined, he said. With that the crowd disperses and I walk off. Karasher follows me to the bench and pulls out his bento box. I pull out mine. I tie my hair up into a messy blonde bun and start eating my recess. I finish eating my recess, then I walk off to the library. Karasher catches up with me and we both enter the library. I share my headphones with him and I grab a thick novel from the shelves. We were seniors by now, so we could be upstairs in the senior-only areas. I walk up the stairs and into one of the empty breakout rooms with Karasher. I sit down in the breakout room and then start reading. Karasher was nuzzled against my neck, his breath a billowy sail against me. Then he turns around and kisses me. Surprised, I kiss back. I've been wanting to mark you for so long, Kimmy. I never get the chance to, he said. Well, in that case you can, but don't mark it somewhere where everyone can see, I said. He then pulls down my collar and looks for my scent gland. He finds my gland and bites it somewhere no one can see. I couldn't believe he was marking me, another alpha. He would usually mark an omega or an beta, but he chose me out of all people. I feel a smile creeping up on my face. Our relationship feels like the song I Feel It Coming by The Weeknd. The quote, "You've been scared of love and what it did to you, specifically. Do you know why, reader? He thought he couldn't ever love again since he grew up in an abusive household. He's finally found his true love. That grubby, miserable tomboy. Him, the popular, happy boy. It drives me crazy how we fell in love. Well, now we're dating." After a while of reading, I drag him upstairs to the top floor where no one was sitting and we sit in one of the corner seats. In fact, we made out in the seat for a bit and finished just as the bell rang for next PRD. Next PRD was maths, gross. But Karasher made it bearable. I love him so much. I sit next to him in the back corner of the class and pull out my textbook and notebooks. Melissa enters the classroom and she gasps. She must have seen the mark. Then she moves and grabs the seat in front of us. "I love you so effing much, Kimmy. So much," he said, just to piss us off, Melissa. "Beach," muttered Melissa from in front of us. I seize the opportunity of the teacher looking away and yank her platinum hair in my hands again. She scowls. Then me and Karasher start to laugh silently and we couldn't stop for the whole of maths class. The bell rang for next PRD and we were crying with tears of laughter. I wave goodbye to him and walk off to biology class. Creator's thoughts. Tor_demand_Tor_demand_. Hey y'all, I hope you enjoyed reading this book until now. If you do, please write a review of this book. It means a lot. I was so stressed out about writing this chapter, and also to SM for 48K views. Means a lot as a young writer. See you guys in the next chapter. Your loving author. Zero comment. Chapter 50, The End. Night We Met, by Lord Hewden starts playing in the background. I am not the only traveler who has not repaid his debt. The school day officially ends and I catch the bus to Karashi's home. We enter his home and walk up the stairs to his room, and we shut the door behind us. We start kissing and hugging, then we see you, the reader, appearing. Hi, reader. They both say to you. You say hi to them as well. I've been searching for a trail to follow. Oh, take me back to the night we met. Would you care to take a trip down your memory lane of this story? Sure, you say. They flick their fingers and you get teleported to an all-white room, and then memories of this story flash in front of your eyes. I don't know what I'm supposed to do, haunted by the ghost of you. Oh, take me back to the night we met. It continues for days, maybe weeks or months, and then it fades back into the white room, and behind the white wall is a window with Kimmy, Karashir, Kurashima, Bakugo and Deku standing. Todoroki is in a corner chained against the wall. It's been a pleasure knowing you, and I hope we have a place in your heart, they all said. With another snap, you were back in your room, sitting there, bent over your phone or computer with music playing in the background. It's as if you've barely known them, but they have a place in your heart. You turn off your room's lights and go to sleep. That, my dears, is the end of this lovely story, and I truly hope you enjoyed this warm, devastating or comforting story depending on how you view it.